Like I said, it's just nice to see that Kent are producing England internationals and performing England internationals as well. That's where we want to get to as a club, and it gives kind of great influence to the other guys who can hopefully push on to international honours as well.
Boys have been playing some great cricket in your absence, but little slip-ups against Sussex and a real kind of thriller a couple of days ago against Middlesex just means this group is kind of in the balance. You've got a couple of games left. You've got to find at least one, maybe 2 wins. How are you viewing it?
Exactly. This is why we play the game, actually, big games. And I think it's a great learning opportunity for younger guys who probably haven't played, especially for our bowling attack that's pretty inexperienced. But the learning that they've done this year will hold them in great stead. And as we go on in the tournament, I'm sure that these guys will get better and better. So, look, it'll be a great game today. I've got no doubt about that. But we have every confidence in our ability to get across the line. And look, 1 win, maybe 2, whatever we need to do. Yeah, I've got absolute confidence in the guys.
Talk about opportunities to learn. We saw a real improvement in Jordan Cox in that last game. He'd been struggling for runs. Looked like he put some of the improvised shots away, hit down the ground, got himself in, and then kind of exploded. What did you make of that innings, and how difficult has that now made selection, given it looked like you were just going to come in for him, and that may still happen, but he's put his hat kind of back in the ring from nowhere?
Absolutely. And I think this is the first time in a very long time, actually, probably since your time as skipper, that we've got serious competition in every single position. Myself, I've got to perform. You've got 2 guys in England Lions International, and obviously Coxey, like you said, in the wicket-keeping responsibilities. You look up and down the guys who aren't playing with the ball, with the bat and everything like that, which is a great place to be, certainly as a captain. But as a team, I think that's really healthy, and that's why, as a team, we're moving forward every single year. So, look, it's great that Coxey's found some form. It's a very difficult role to do that in. Jack Leaning is also, even though he hasn't quite got it right the last couple of games, has done really well in previous performances as well, and very experienced in that role as well. His stats at Yorkshire in that role were amazing a couple of years ago. So, yeah, it is a selection headache, but look, we're just trying to pick the best team we think on the day to win and get the 2 points.
A word for today's opponents. Last question, because we're running out of time. But the Eagles are defending champions. They haven't quite set the group stage on fire, but they're dangerous.
Very dangerous. Very good players up and down the order. With the ball, obviously, Simon Harmer doesn't need any introduction. And yeah, look, we've got to play well. I think this South group, I know I'm slightly biased, but is as strong as any. Everyone beats everyone in a normal year, let alone this year. So we're going to have to be right on it. But like I said, last time we lost a game, obviously Zach with that response, I suppose, was formidable. So hopefully we can get this similar reaction today.
Great to have you back. Good luck today.
Thanks, Dave.
The Essex Eagles have won the toss for the Battle of the Bridge. Mark II in this year's Vitality Blast. The Eagles will bat first when this match gets underway in just less than a quarter of an hour's time. And just before, a few moments ago, in fact, we were hearing from Sam Billings, talking to you, Dave, who, I must admit, he seemed very happy with life. Why wouldn't he be? He's straight back in the side today, keeping wicket and taking over as skipper, of course. He must have confidence coursing through his veins. The series he's just had in the ODIs against Australia.
Yeah, well, we saw with Zach Crawley, didn't we? The 267 he made against Pakistan. He came back into the fold here at Kent and continued on his good form and the confidence it must give you to succeed on the highest stage at the top level and then come what is effectively down a notch, you know, and play for your county. Still a very fine standard, but you know you belong. Whereas when you're playing for your country and you're trying to make your way and establish yourself in the side, that's altogether trickier. So to come back to Kent, to be captain, to come back with 100 and a 50 to your name, it's brilliant for Sam. You think where he was a year ago when he came back into the fold, having missed out on the World Cup, still recovering from that shoulder injury, and then things didn't go initially according to plan. But I think the real turning point for Sam Billings was actually playing championship match after championship match after championship match and actually spending some time in the middle for years, for 2, 3, 4 years. He's been going all around the world playing for different franchises, not getting as much cricket as he would like, sitting on a lot of benches, being in England squads, not always in the starting 11. Now he's playing cricket, and it's very difficult to come in at the drop of a hat and perform, but when you get some game time, and he's had some game time, he's beginning to establish himself in England colours, and that is a tough team to break into, let me tell you. But he's got in there, he's scored runs, and I think, well, I hope he will bring that form back to Kent, and I think it will help his leadership. Daniel Beldrama's done a great job in his absence, but Daniel will be very happy to just drop back into the ranks, let Sam captain, and I'm full of confidence too. So, yeah, fingers crossed it works out for him. Expect him to come in at number 4. I don't think that the opening pair of Beldrama and Crawley will change. Joe Denley seems like a natural fit at number 3, but you think you want to get Sam in pretty early in the piece. So Sam in at 4 with Heino Kuhn, Alex Blake, Jack Leaning, Grant Stewart, Matt Milne, Zimran Kayam and Fred Klassen. That's the Kent side. It quite looks strong on paper.
And the batting's really been bolstered, hasn't it, as the campaign's gone on with these returning players. I had a chat with Daniel Beldrama on Wednesday after the game against Middlesex here. He's absolutely really enjoyed the captaincy role, something that seems to fit fairly easily with him, and the players certainly seemed to respond to him. Don't know if you saw any of the Roses clash last night, Lancashire, Yorkshire. Good to see those two teams on the telly, by the way, for a change. I've seen so much of Lancashire and Yorkshire this season. But Joe Root, straight back into the Yorkshire team. I think that surprised a few people. Thought he might go and have a rest, but he was straight out of the England bubble. Didn't have to go anywhere, of course, because the same venue was used. Just looked to be loving life back with his Yorkshire mates. It was a terrific look, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fine player, Joe Root, but I think the point is a good one. You know, a lot of people might have expected him to have a bit of a rest, take a bit of a break, but these guys love playing for their county sides. You know, Joe Root is Yorkshire through and through, and, if you cut Sam Billings in half, you know, he'd bleed Kent. He's Kent through and through, and he wants to come back. He wants to impact games for his county, and he desperately wants to win this competition. It's probably his strongest format. He's played for Chennai. He's played all over the place, all around the world. He knows 2020. He knows how to win 2020 matches, and he'd love to lead Kent to success in this competition. He'd love to do it in front of a crowd. We'd all love to have a crowd here. Of course we would. But in its absence, follow us on the stream, and hopefully you'll see terrific performance from Sam Billings. But, the point about Joe Root, the other point I'd like to make about Joe Root is there is still room for proper batting in 2020 cricket. And I think if Sam Billings has learned anything over the last couple of years, it's give yourself a chance. We saw Jordan Cox play so well the other day because he got in, gave himself a chance, played proper cricket shots, after which all the improvised shots from your repertoire can come in. But you can't get away from the basics of the game. Joe Root does those extremely well, which is why he's successful. And I think Sam Billings has done that better over the last couple of years, and that's why he's scored more runs too.
It's time as well, isn't it? Seemingly time when playing those shots. Watching Joe Root last night, he doesn't look hurried. A couple of the pull shots he nailed, he absolutely timed them to perfection. And there is a role, isn't there, in the 11, in any T20 team, for the player who can perhaps try and bat through, who can just play properly, play straight mostly. Doesn't have to be improvisation all over the place. It doesn't have to be a boundary every ball, surely.
No, it doesn't, and I think we got a lesson in that from Steve Eskenazi the other day in Middlesex. You think that game was decided by a margin of 2 runs in the end, and Eskenazi just didn't face
mostly. Doesn't have to be improvisation all over the place. It doesn't have to be a boundary every ball, surely.
No, it doesn't, and I think we got a lesson in that from Steve Eskenazi the other day in Middlesex. You think that game was decided by a margin of 2 runs in the end, and Eskenazi just didn't face any dots really. It's the odd dot, but he just kept the scoreboard ticking. Yes, he can hit 4s and 6s, but he gets off strike. He's got a very low dot ball percentage, and in games of small margins, ironically, it could be those 1s and 2s and the ability to pick them up, and also the fielding performance of the side. Kent just let a couple slip right at the back end of the Middlesex innings, and when you lose by 2 runs, you can go over things with a fine-tooth comb and think, oh, if only I'd stopped that one, dived and picked that one up, or managed to get back for 2 instead of settling for that single. They're the little things on which games can hinge. But I'm also just looking, Steve, at the last 5 games between these two sides. Kent have won 4 of them, and they're high-scoring encounters. I think we can expect runs today. Short boundary, good-looking surface. 175 for 6. Kent beat Essex last year, July 2019. That's the lowest total of those 5 Kent innings across those last 5 matches. So expect runs, but the good news is that Kent more often than not beat Essex.
Important to remember that some of those games would have been at Chelmsford, of course, where you usually expect big runs with those smallish boundaries at Chelmsford. But as you say, big runs pretty much every single encounter the last 2-3 years between these two teams in the Battle of the Bridge. We're just about 10 minutes, just less than 10 minutes away from the start of this crucial clash for the Spitfires, at least, in the Vitality. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Spitfire Ground, St Lawrence. Welcome to the Battle of the Bridge in the Vitality Blast. The Kent Spitfires against the Essex Eagles. The Eagles have won the toss. They're going to bat first. Players just lining up at either end of the ground, preparing to take the knee for Black Lives Matter. Just before the umpires arrive, let's give you details of the 2 lineups here this afternoon. One change for the Spitfires, an expected one, with Sam Billings coming back into the team, taking the gloves, leading the side in place of Jordan Cox. So the Spitfires: Zach Crawley, Daniel Bell-Drummond, Joe Denley, Heino Kuhn, Sam Billings, Alex Blake, Jack Leaning, Grant Stewart, Matt Milnes, Imran Khayyam and Fred Clarkson.
Yeah, the umpire's just coming out and about to do the knee, take the knee, and down they go. So just a moment of silence before I bring you the Essex team. Well, there we go. the players taking the knee for the Black Lives Matter movement, and there is Sam Billings leading the Kent side out, but that Essex side, as promised, it's a dangerous one. They are the defending champions, of course. Cameron Delport, Tom Wesley, Dan Lawrence, Michael Pepper. He's going to keep wicket. Ryan Tendescarter, Paul Walter, Simon Harmer, the skipper, Matt Quinn, Jack Plom, Aaron Nijar and Sam Cook. So they are the visitors. That man in shot there, Zach Crawley. He bounced back after Kent's defeat at Sussex with a memorable 100. Scored at a fair rate as well. 108 unbeaten he was off 54 deliveries down at the Ageas. Boy, how he wishes he could take that Ageas strip around with him, but he's got to do the business here at the Spitfire ground. Joe Denley has the ball in his hand. That's been the way of things over the last couple of matches since Denley's been back. It was Alex Blake before Denley's return. It looks like we're going to see a little bit of leg spin. And there's the skipper with the sunnies on. A couple of dangerous men at the top of this Essex order. Looks like the stocky left-hander, Cameron Delport, and I believe that's Tom Wesley alongside him.
Sir Tom Wesley, of course. Sir Tom Wesley, Lord Wesley of Chelmsford, as he is known. A couple of Kent lads in the middle today as well. Nigel Long and Martin Saggers, former teammates of yours, talking about picking up that Ageas Bowl strip. I should think both Zach Crawley and Sam Billings would like a hand in that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they've got very well, haven't they, in England colours. Interesting talking to Sam Billings, that interview, how he said the bubble's been a bit dull. I'm not going to lie to you. You know, the cricket's been great, but there's not much to do, not much else to do. And you know, the kind of, I think there were one or two former players warning about the burnout bubble in the IPL, because that's going to have to be contested. The teams are going to be in bubbles there, so not easy. Must remember that. That's the kind of context that these players find themselves in. It's been a brilliant effort to get any cricket on this summer. The ECB, the counties, the players, the umpires, everyone's done extremely well. It's game on here. Essex winning the toss, opting to bat first. Remember, a victory for Kent, and they will qualify for the knockout stages.
It's only a couple of months ago we thought we might not see any cricket at all this summer. We've been treated internationally and domestically to some fabulous matches. Let's hope we have another one here at the Spitfire ground this afternoon. It's Cameron Delport who's preparing to face up to Joe Denley. It's going to start proceedings from the Nackington Road end. Just waiting for the clock to tick around, I think, to 2 o'clock. Quick check of the watch from Martin Saggers. We should be underway shortly here.
It's a blustery day, Steve, isn't it? You can see Joe Denley's hair, which is normally well gelled, still blowing around, and Delport's going to be hitting with the wind, I think. I got it in the back again today, that wind. So, yeah, it's quite a long way towards the Nackington Road side of the ground, but he will be hitting with the wind.
You've already got 2 layers on, I notice, as Joe Denley is in. Bowls to Cameron Delport, who will get off the mark with a single down to Heino Kuhn, which will bring Sir Tom Wesley onto strike. Looks a good opening partnership, doesn't it, these two?
Yeah, contrasting. Obviously, you've got the left-right combination. Wesley, skillful, elegant. Delport, well, he's the modern-day one-day T20 batsman, isn't he? He's all action. I think kind of David Warner and Aaron Finch rolled into one. He's that kind of mode of player. He'll look to get Essex off to a flyer. And Wesley, well, he's no slouch either. He has 20-20 hundreds.
Class player as well, Wesley. Joe Denley bowls to him. And he pushes up to mid-on. Daniel Bell-Drummond, not with the captain's armband on today. He's been in terrific form in this year's Vitality Blast. It was a strange and a very rare failure, wasn't it, for the Kent opening pair here against Middlesex on Wednesday. Delport's going to pick up another single here. Thought about the second for a moment, but it isn't there, so single so far, 3 without loss, halfway through the first over.
Yeah, just looking at Wesley's numbers, he had a couple of T20 hundreds. I think one of those witnessed against Kent, Colchester. 200, 750s, averages just under 30.
And Denley's in to Wesley, who's sweeping. There's a muted appeal. Certainly didn't go full bore with that appeal to the umpire. But it is a dot ball. Tom Wesley's England career reminds me of something of a previous era. Into the team, all the rage, and it It's sort of ending quite quickly. He's sweeping this time, and he's going to get 4 runs for it as well. Just manages to evade the fielder there. Sweeping just behind square, down towards us. Alex Blake not quite able to get there. First boundary of the match.
Yeah, good shot from Tom Wesley. They're not just going to let Joe Denley bowl and have a look at him. If they can get after him, they will. I was just looking at the record of Cameron Delport as Denley comes in again.
And Wesley is driving its aerial, but it's in the gap for a moment. I thought Jack Leaning was in business, but it is another boundary. So a quiet start to the over. Good end for the Eagles. 11 runs on the board after the first.
Decent start for the Eagles. So Cameron Delport, 244 matches, 529 50s. And I'm not even going to begin to read out the number of teams that he's played for around the world, but I reckon there are nearly 20. There might be around 20 sides. He's played for just about every franchise going. Including teams like the Boost Defenders, who I've got no idea where the Boost Defenders play, but it's enough to make it onto his Cricinfo profile. So I've never heard of. You heard of them, Steve? The Boost. I've heard of the Chittagong Vikings and the Dakar Dynamites and the Guyana Amazon Warriors. But yeah, the Boost Defenders. Look at that lot of teams that he's played for there. It's the way of the modern day T20 specialist, isn't it?
Sounds like the sort of team I might have played against, the Boost Defenders. That's a huge blurb, isn't it? The list of teams for Cameron Delport there.
It's not a chocolate bar, Steve, the old Boost Defenders, but...
That's where I was getting confused. I've had a Boost. I haven't played them. I've eaten one. Quite right. Here's Matt Milnes to bowl the first over of the day from the pavilion there. Bowling to Delport, who's gone over mid-off, and he's going to get 4 once that's cleared the fielder inside the circle. Zach Crawley, that's always running away for 4, so another boundary. We've had 3 already. 7 balls gone in the contest.
Yeah, you just worry about this Essex team. They could be running into form, albeit a bit late for themselves in terms of qualification from this group, but just at the wrong time from a Kent perspective, because they are dangerous. They're the defending champions, and if Delport has a day out, then watch out.
Milnes into Delport, who's looking to play leg side. Eventually finds third man inside the circle there. The pressure's probably off Essex as well, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've nothing to play for from a T20 perspective other than pride as the defending champions. They've got one eye on that Bob Willis Trophy final, of course, which is next week against Somerset. So, they'll be thinking about that, but what better way to prepare for that particular final than by scoring a few runs and freeing yourself up in the shortest form of the game. So they're dangerous because they've got nothing to play for. But they'll still be pretty focused on trying to do a job on the old enemy.
Be a fair number of the same players as well, I would have thought. So no harm in getting yourself in form as Wesley is driving. Quite time that. Picks out Alex Blake, so no run this time around.
And high-scoring games, as we mentioned, between these two. So if they do put a decent score on the board, it won't faze Kent. I just think it's time for the bowlers to come to the party a little bit as well. We've seen the likes of Crawley and Bell Drummond and the batsmen putting some runs on the board, but how about a top bowling performance?
Matt Milnes will be doing his best to make sure it is, as Wesley goes aerial, and he gets this down to the Frank Woolley stand for another boundary. So this is already looking like a good start for the Eagles here.
And it's looking like a good pitch, Steve, that's what I would say. I mean, Milnes' bowling, that is a kind of 4-day length. And whether he has to go to his change-ups quite early, it looks like he might, because he hasn't. You'd say that's not a bad delivery in the whole scheme of things, but if you hit length, then you do run the risk of a player of Wesley's ability or Delport's ability just popping you back over your head.
Already 1 or 2 tweaks in the field as well. Alex Blake, who's been inside the circle, is now dropping out to the mid-wicket boundary over towards the academy. As Milnes is in to bowl to Wesley. Good comeback. A little bit of shape on that, little bit of movement off the pitch. Strange, isn't it, how it ends up looking a loose shot. But he's beaten there by Matt Milnes.
Yeah, good comeback by Milnes. I always think of him these days as the spearhead of this Kent attack, particularly in red ball cricket. Of course, he's had the likes of Hardisvillian and Adam Milne charging in this form of the game.
Here he is bowling to Wesley. Good field change because Alex Blake's only just gone down to the mid-wicket boundary. And he saves a 4 there. Single to Wesley, keeps the strike. 21 without loss the Eagles after 2 overs. I'm just wondering, do we have Tav's teaser coming up today?
Tav teasers coming up a little bit later. Yeah, we'll bring you that in the second half of the game. So that's just a question from myself. There is absolutely no prize for winning and answering Tav's teasers correctly. Just a little bit of fun. We also want to know, and we'll pose this question properly at the end of the next over, where you are watching from. So the hashtag, where are you watching from, and at Kent Cricket. We'll want to hear from you today.
As is the norm, the slow bowler has completed the first over of the match. That's all he's going to bowl for the time being, because Fred Clarkson is going to turn his arm over from the Nackington Road ends. The left arm over. Fred Clarkson be bowling to Tom Wesley, who's on 14 already. And he's preparing to face Clarkson for the first time today. Drives nicely, gets 4 runs for it. Wesley looks in good touch.
Yeah, it's a powerful shot. A bit of a loosener from Clarkson, just kind of dished it up on a fullish length. We have another little look at this drive from Tom Wesley. He's very strong on the leg side, very strong straight. That was a half volley, and he needed no second invitation to put it away.
And put it away he did. Fast start from the Eagles here, particularly from Wesley, who once again is driving. This one's aerial, it's over mid-wicket. There isn't a boundary fielder for Clarkson to Wesley, and that's also gone. Raining boundaries early doors here at the Spitfire grounds.
No clouds in the sky, but you're right. Boundary is coming thick and fast, and Clarkson just got to pull his length back a touch, maybe mix his pace up. Sam Billings had a little jog through for a word of advice, but he's gone well in this year's campaign class. I've been really impressed with how he's kicked on, but this is a challenge. You want your first 2 balls to disappear for 4s.
Got some bad news for you after this delivery. Clarkson into Wesley, pulls this time. There is some protection now on the boundary, so it's just the 1 this time around. It's Alex Blake with the fielding. Now Wasp, I know you're not a huge fan of Wasp, the insect wasp, or indeed Wasp on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, but you were banging on about the big scores between these 2 teams in recent years. Wasp is agreeing with you.
Wasp saying 197. And of course, that's based on all kinds of statistical data, which is that teams at 30 for none generally go on to get 197. Well, there's a bit of cricket to be played before that. I always think that you've got to wait and see what happens in the couple of overs after the power play, when the pace can be taken off.
They'll put on strike this time. Get 1 out to Heino Kuhn. Was a bit of a worry in life, that, you know, when someone you're not, I'm not talking about you here, but when someone you're not that keen on, you're not really a fan of, and they wholeheartedly agree with you about something, it's always a quandary, that, isn't it? I know you and Wasp are not big friends.
No, I'm not a big fan of the Wasp. But, I tell you what, if they get 197, you can come back at me and say Wasp knows what he's talking about.
I bet they don't. Here's Clarkson bowling to Wesley. Oh, he's timed this as well. He's going to get another 4 here. Just a punch through the cover region. 4 more, and Wasp has leapt up into the 200s now. It's another big over. There's 35 on the board already. We haven't even completed the 3rd over yet.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it, how these games can start. I mean, we saw Middlesex the other day. I think after 3 overs, they were 7 runs, and then suddenly that was when Joe Cracknell went big, and they were at 10s about 4 or 5 overs later. Other times, you know, you're 35 off fewer than 3 overs, and then the bowling side reels them back in.
Final ball of the over. Well, there's a appeal of sorts from Sam Billings. Never was totally convinced by it, but it is a dot ball to end the over. But it's 35 on the board after 3. I refer you to that Roses match on TV last night, Lancashire and Yorkshire. The innings, who was it shared that big partnership? Stephen Croft, can't remember now. Anyway, massive partnership going on. Liam Livingstone. Huge partnership going on. They looked set for 200. When that partnership was broken, it was dragged back considerably. Something similar for Yorkshire as well, when Joe Root was batting with Adam Lythe. They were cruising towards the target.
But well, a wicket changes things, doesn't it? Just a reminder that we want to know where you are watching us from. get involved using the hashtag #SuperKent. So you're all around the world watching, and hopefully you are again. So do get in touch. We want to hear from you.
First glance at Grant Stewart today, bowling to Cameron Delport, who's advancing, not really getting hold of it.
But to go back to the point you were making, Steve, I think it's absolutely right. Once you're set, you know, batting, you have to get in. And the guys coming in the middle order, especially after such a good start, kind of feel that they've got to hit every ball for 4 or 6. And sometimes you can go too hard too early, and before you know it, you're back in the shed.
Delport's going over the top. Zach Crawley's giving chase, as is so often the case when it runs down to the Frank Woolley stand. It picks up those practice wickets where the nets are erected before the game. Very unusual that the fielder catches up with it. It's 4 more.
Yeah, and they'll know what Delport is capable of, and I think we were already seeing, aren't we, if you hit a good length, then these Essex batsmen are prepared to put their hands through it. And the bats are so good these days, and the batsmen so strong that even a miss hit or a chip, it runs away for 4.
Oh, that's a bit of a hoik. Advancing, trying to swing that violently over to the leg side. Doesn't get a touch on it. Just going to say before that shot, actually, the shot of choice so far today, and the early evidence of this game, has been the lofted straight drive.
Yeah, just looking at the field here, 2 men back on the leg side, and that's why that last delivery, banging it in, was a really good option. 2 men back covering the pool.
Something similar here, but he's got that one wrong. So Nigel Long will swing round, face the scorers, arms outstretched, wide ball.
You pitch it up to Delport, and he's going to hit you back over your head. So Grant Stewart's going to mix it up with the odd short ball, and I think that's right. You go back of a length, and then if he's good enough to pull you off that length with 2 men back, I mean, it's not a long boundary down to the apartments. But Stewart's got a bit of pace, and if he hurries Delport, anything other than a purely timed shot could be out.
It's bowled at the pads again. This time they will come through for a run.
Yeah, good bowling though. And I think that'll be what Sam Billings is saying. He's just jogging through to have a chat with his bowler now, Billings. And I think he'd be saying, just keep hitting the deck. Nothing floaty. Float it up full to these guys. They're putting 1 foot down the wicket and just hitting through the line. Looks like a good pitch. It's like the kind of surface you've got to thump back of a length hard. And if they're good enough to pull you off that kind of length, then fair play.
Some of the shots we've seen already from Wesley in particular do suggest a good pitch here at the Spitfire ground. He's on strike, and once again he's going through mid-on, and he's going for 4. That one not quite so well timed, but timed well enough. And it's another boundary to Tom Wesley, who's flying along here on 27.
Yeah, dangerous customer, Tom Wesley. Always seems to favour the leg side, but, you know, these are good cricket shots. But what was clever about that is just on impact, he just seemed to turn his wrists. If he'd not done that, he would have picked out the mid-on fieldsman, but he just closed the face, picked his gap, got it well enough for another boundary.
And I beg his pardon, Sir Tom of Wesley. I said he was on 27. That boundary takes him to 31 from 14 balls. Final ball this of the 4th over. It's Grant Stewart to Wesley, who's pulling. Not quite sure what Imran Khan is doing there. It's just going to be the single to round off the 4th over. It's 46 without loss.
Yeah, good recovery from Khan. That was a misfield. I think he looked like he might have been in with a chance of a run out, and he did the old favourite. He just looked at which end he was going to throw the ball before he gathered it. And that could have been an embarrassing misfield. But beautiful day here at the Spitfire ground. Looks like it's going to be a change of ends. Is it? No, Freddie Classen's going to continue from the Nackington Road end. But yeah, good batting conditions, I'd suggest. You've got a short boundary to the apartment side of the ground. You've got no overheads at all from the bowling perspective, and you've got a good batting surface. So expect a high-scoring game.
We're in the firing line again, aren't we, in our gazebo, just in front of the cafe and the club offices. That's where we are. Do you like my van parked at the back?
Yeah, we're not allowed to touch the ball as well. If they do whack it over here, just remember that, Steve. You've got to duck out the way. Don't touch it. Otherwise, everything's got to stop for sanitisation.
Yeah, here's Clarkson in to Wesley. Takes a fair stride over towards the offside. Clarkson followed him. Talking about touching the ball. The ball very nearly touched us the other day, didn't we? We lost it. It was coming our way. So I don't know what happens then. Do we have to be sanitised?
Well, you probably do, Steve. I'm clean enough.
Harsh, but probably fair. Clarkson's in to Wesley, who punches away off the back foot. So Heino Kuhn with the fielding there. Sharp as always, Heino. Eagles on the verge of 50 already. 47 without loss.
Yeah, Kent's just got to hold their nerve here. You know, this can happen in 2020. Get a good pitch. Two players in decent touch. All of a sudden they come flying out the gates. Well, we've just got to hold your nerve, stick to your plans. Fielders have got to want the ball and want to make an impact. A couple of wickets, it changes very quickly.
Clarkson into Delport, who tucks this one behind square on the leg side. Nice clean piece of fielding from Imran Khayyam that time. So 48 without loss. Cameron Delport, we know how destructive he can be, but at the moment he's mostly standing at the non-striker's end, admiring the blade of Tom Wesley, which is working to very good effect so far. Wesley 33 from just 17 balls. Facing Clarkson, short ball, pulled all the way for 6. I think it could be another broken seat. We had one of those the other day. Matt Milnes has to climb the advertising hoardings. Wesley onto that very quickly. Pretty flat, goes all the way.
Yeah, and this is why he's a tough person to bowl at, Tom Wesley. You pitch it up, he hits you back over your head. So you overcompensate, you bang it in. He's pretty quick on the pull shot as well. Clarkson's not quite quick enough to hurry a batsman of the calibre of Tom Wesley. That was a little bit too short, and it's not a big hit down there. So he's just got a back of a length, yes. Short, probably not.
Let's have a look at Clarkson's reply. Oh, and it's a terrific reply. Is it? Has that catch been taken? We think it is a dismissal. So what a comeback that is. Tom Wesley managing to pick out the fielder at mid-off. Terrific comeback from Fred Clarkson. That is a very timely wicket for the Spitfires. Wesley looked in great form.
Yeah, just giving himself a bit of room. Not his favoured direction. Mid-off. Who is that there? Is that Zach Crawley? I think he's just in a spot of bother with his hand. So we hope for Kent's sake that he's okay, because he's kind of down on his haunches, and that one very sore indeed. And the last thing Kent need at the moment is an injury, finger injury to that man there, because he's in the form of his life. But I think he's okay. The fact he's out there carrying on and not kind of running for the dressing room suggests he's okay. But yeah, big scalp. The Spitfires needed that. Wesley gone for quick-fire 39, just 19 deliveries, 54 for 1, the Eagles.
That obviously stung the hands of Crawley, because he chucked the ball away very quickly, didn't he? Which is why for a moment I thought there may have been a fumble out there, but he did take the catch. And Tom Wesley, it's a brief contribution, but it's a very, very powerful one. 39 from just 19 balls, which has brought Dan Lawrence to the crease.
Dangerous customer, but they're the kind of innings, aren't they? 39 off 19, they can be game-winning efforts.
So good comeback from Clarkson after the 6. Bowls to Dan Lawrence, who will not be getting off the mark immediately because he's picked out Joe Denley there. So dot ball to end the over. Good comeback. Fred Clarkson has bowled a couple of overs. 1 for 22. It's the one that's important right now, because Sir Tom Wesley is back in the Les Ames stand. Essex Eagles 54 for 1 with an over to go in the power play.
Yeah, timely wicket, especially with Essex with their foot flat down on the pedal. So looks like it's going to be Matt Milnes, is it, back into the attack. Expensive first over. It's an opportunity now to bowl to Delport rather than Wesley. And a man in Dan Lawrence who's just come to the crease. It's just interesting to see whether Delport, with all his experience, 240 plus games, he just knocks it around, or whether he continues to play his shots. Here's Milnes from the pavilion end. And, half appeal there, not quite sure why. It pitched about 6 inches outside leg stump, but it seems to have done Delport some damage. Maybe just one of those that you get just on the inside of the knee. They can be sore. Get in a position where it misses the flap of the bat. He's in a bit of bother, bless him.
You're not meant to laugh at that. Can't help it though, can you? Bit of excitement in the field as well, because Dan Lawrence was herring off for a single there. But Delport was having none of it. Delport can hardly move.
I know, it's amazing that you've got your inner thigh pad and your thigh pad, and you think, how could it hit me anywhere other than padding? But sometimes you just get yourself in a bit of a pickle. The pad bends at a certain angle and the ball seems to miss everything and straight onto the inside of the knee. You can be sore. Sometimes you actually bring your bat down and clunk your own knee. Here's Milnes again. Oh, he's gone for the other knee this time. He's pitched outside leg stump. If you can't knock them over by getting them out, then just keep aiming for the knees. Maybe Kent have done their research. Cameron Delport, he's got dodgy knees, you know, like footballers who are going to leave a bit on someone. We'll just target the knees. Sam Billings gone, that's it. Go again. Third one on the knee. That'll finish him off. He'll be carried out of here. New
tactic, is it? Whack him on the knee. Do them both. He won't be able to bat properly then because he can hardly move the crease.
Yeah. That's it. One knee, then the other knee, then go the run out because he can't run. This one a bit wider, and Delport rather angrily climbs into that one. And it's going to be a boundary, I think. Zach Crawley, who took the catch, the over before, is wringing his hand once again. Bit of a misfield. Alex Blake trudges after it, so come back from Delport, but I think Crawley will be frustrated. Looked like he should have reeled this one in.
Cameron Delport's obviously had a very quick knee replacement. Because those two blows he took didn't incapacitate him there. So Crawley again, rather worrying with that catch he took in the previous over. Obviously took a bit of a slap on the hand, and when he was attempting to field that, he got up shaking it quite violently.
Yeah, he's still looking at his hands, Zach Crawley. That's a bit of a concern. Delport's whipping this one away to deep mid-wicket, but the man at deep mid-wicket, Fred Clarkson, fields. Well placed there by Sam Billings, and I think that's got to be the line to Delport. Those balls that wrapped him on the knee looks like a deliberate plan, not necessarily to target the knee, but to cramp him up, to give him no room.
Just wondering where you go next. You've done the right knee and the left knee. I'm just thinking about what's left. Perhaps we'll move on quickly.
So that single brings Dan Lawrence on to strike. Very dangerous batsman. Yorker for Milnes, and Heino Kuhn, diminutive South African, blow to the ground, scampers across, prevents the single.
There's one ball left in the power play. Been very much the Essex Eagles power play so far. But very happy to see the back of Tom Wesley for 39 in the previous over. Spitfires hoping that brings this run rate down a little.
Side by Lawrence. It's going to be a single, so decent over this one from Milnes. At Crawley misfield. It's the only boundary, so even my maths can work that out at 10 and over. 60 for 1 at the end of the power play.
Good end to that power play as well from Matt Milnes. 60 for 1 the Essex Eagles. They won the toss, decided to bat first. Looks a good decision at the moment. Tom Wesley looked in magnificent form before he was taken by Zach Crawley, who may have just caused himself a little bit of a mischief in taking the catch after bowling of Fred Clarkson. He whacked Clarkson for 6, who came back by dismissing Wesley. 7 fours and 1 maximum in Wesley's 39, which means that Cameron Delport so far has rather taken a watching brief for quite a large part of this game.
Yeah, he's circumspect. Delport 18 off 14. This will be interesting. Imran Kayam bowling from the Nackington Road. He bowled from the pavilion end to good effect last time out. It's Lawrence shouting push. And as soon as he shout push, then both men decide to jog. Only ever going to be a single there. Just looking at Dan Lawrence's recent scores, had a really slow start to the campaign with 7, 3 and 23. And in his last 3 games have been 17, 81 and an unbeaten 49 against Hampshire. So 81 and 49 not out, coming into some form. A bit too late from an Essex perspective, but means he's dangerous. Kind of back of a length. Delport content just to push up the ground for the single.
Dan Lawrence, one of those players who's been spoken about in full England international terms, seemingly for quite a few years now.
Yeah, he's highly rated, that's for certain. Cutting this one. This so often happens. I think statistically, I could be wrong. You might be able to tell us out there in Twitter sphere. I think the 7th over of T20 matches is statistically the one where fewest runs are scored. It's almost like we go the power play and then everyone catches their breath, and if you bowl the 7th, generally you get knocked around for a few singles, and then they kind of go again at the back end of the innings. So it's not a bad time to be bowling.
I've not seen that stat, but it makes total sense, doesn't it?
Delport is forcing away, kind of rather emphasises the point. This was later on in the piece, and I remember, I think it was someone like Jared Kimber, who's a bit of a 2020 statistical guru, saying that why should you throttle back? You're 1 down, you've got 9 wickets in the hutch. Actually, the 7th, 8th, 9th over could be crucial to victory, and too many teams don't go hard enough. This one's short, and it could be out. He's long on, he's picked him out as he has. Great catch. Dan Lawrence, we're just bigging him up, how talented he was. But I think it's Alex Blake, number 10 on his back. It looked like at one stage it might not quite get there. Those Kent celebrations getting more and more vociferous. They used to be foot taps. You've definitely got to boot up the backside there, Alex Blake, for his troubles. But this was a good catch, Steve.
And that may be why you don't go so hard in the 7th over. You've got plenty of runs on the board in the power play. Tell you what we don't want to do is we don't want to lose another wicket or two straight away when the power play is finished, because that's going to drag us right back. Well, that's exactly what has happened here. And if the Spitfires can keep chipping away with these wickets, well, they'll need to do that because of the start that the Eagles had. But great to see someone of the quality of Lawrence on his way for 3. Terrific catch from Alex Blake. Dying all the time, wasn't it? Got the slide out. Always admire that, getting the slide out, but still having the control when you've taken the catch. It's so easy, isn't it, when once it's in the hands to pop out again. But this 7th over, it has been quiet, it's been productive. The stats, they don't lie, do they, their stats?
Well, there's been a lot of T20 games played over the years, and like you said, common sense, isn't it, really? Power play, and then the 7th over, everyone catches their breath. But again, he's bowling to Delport, who may have to just rein in 1 or 2 of his bigger shots. Michael Pepper, the new batsman, wicket keeper. Form of the game. I'm just trying to see if he's been playing or whether he's in for, I guess he's played he's played 3 games. Last 3 games. I guess Adam Wheater would have been the man in possession of the gloves. So no Wheater today.
He's in a band, isn't he, Michael Pepper? He's in a band with Phil Salt. Everyone's gone speechless.
I thought you were going kind of in a Lonely Hearts Club, but then I realised what you were doing. Yeah, I think, is Phil Mustard in that particular band?
The Colonel?
Yeah, the Colonel alongside Graham Onions. There we go. What a band that would be. As Grant Stewart is in, he's bowling to the dangerous South African, who smashes this down to long off. Heino Kuhn is there with the shiny blue boots, throws in. It's just the one. Yeah, imagine that. Salt, pepper, mustard, onions. We want 1 more member. You think of any more condiments that could play in that particular 5-a-side team or that band?
Maybe Michael Fish.
Bass guitarist Fish.
Fish out of Marillion. Was it Marillion? Fish? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was thinking from the world of cricket. I mean, you could pick names out from other walks of life. That doesn't fit.
My well has run dry.
Yes. Well, here's Grant Stewart, and oh, good delivery. It's Pepper all ends up.
Yeah, completely done there, Michael Pepper. Little role Cameron Delport takes from here on in. Is he going to be the guy that thinks, you know what, I'm going to try and bat through most of this innings, and I'm going to tee off at the back end if I'm still here? But with some of the players that the Essex Eagles still have left to come, it might seem a little bit of a waste.
Chipping is Pepper. This one again finds Heino Kuhn, who's quickly round to prevent a second run.
Talking of Phil Salt, I see that he came back into the Sussex Sharks team the other day. He's got 0 or 1, I think. All that build-up for the lad back in the Sussex Sharks team. But we mentioned Dan Lawrence and how he's been spoken about in England terms for seemingly a good few years. Phil Salt is very much in that radar too.
On drive from Delport. It's going to be the single though. Alex Blake is going from long on to long on. Yeah, I think it's been difficult, isn't it, for those county guys that have gone to the bubble. It happened with Ollie Robinson, also of Sussex, and Phil Salt. It happened to Ben Folkes. You kind of go up there. Great to be part of it, but then you don't end up playing. And it means you can be bereft of form when you do come back. It's not easy to pick up, score runs. Pepper is defending, angling. Ball down to third man. It's a decent over this from Stewart, just another single.
I enjoyed listening to your interview with Sam Billings before the start of play today, talking about the bubble. I had a little bit of experience of that when England were playing Ireland. I was in the bubble down at the Aegeus Bowl on those non-match days. Spend an hour just sifting through your laundry for something to do.
Rock and roll is Watts. Oh, that's out. He's gone, I think. I think that is the end of Michael Pepper. That is the unluckiest way to get out in cricket. There's the strangle down the leg side that's probably running it a close second, but a run out backing up. I think it was a half a chance that Delport offered Grant Stewart. Couldn't get his mitt round it for the catch. Finger-tipped it onto the stumps. And Pepper, well, he has to trudge back to the Les Ames stand and join the rest of his teammates. He's been cut off for just 2. Let's have another look.
If I don't get you one way, I'm going to get you another. Grant Stewart bowling here to Delport. Probably should have taken the catch. Huge slice of fortune that he deflects it back onto the middle stump. And Michael Pepper, oh, worst feeling in the world, isn't it? Turn round. I haven't done anything wrong. Lady Luck is up there, not smiling, a big old grimace. And Pepper's on his way. It's the phrase I use, bonus wicket. That is a bonus wicket, but it's 3 down. And from this rip-roaring start that the Eagles had, you keep chipping away with these wickets, that's going to change things. But here is another terrific T20 player.
Yeah, Ryan Tendusgarda, another man who's been all around the world. T20 franchise cricket. So not all doom and gloom from an Essex perspective, because I often think that Tendusgarda comes in a little bit too low down. You can have plenty of time to bat here. He's got 12 overs or so. But yeah, very fortunate, Ken, to get that wicket. I'm sure Grant Stewart would much rather have taken the catch, because Delport would have been the man they wanted. It reminds me of a time, which we'll come back to, when I ran Trevor Ward out in consecutive games, exactly that fashion. As Tendusgarda nudges into the offside, he will scamper between the wickets. Tendusgarda, he's lightning.
When you appeared on the Spitfire sessions alongside Trevor Ward, I don't remember him mentioning this.
I think we did talk about the run-outs. I got him 3 in 1995. I got him 3 times. One was against Zimbabwe, first ball of the game, where he was marking out his guard, and I arrived next to him, having run 2. He thought I was just jogging 1, and it was that one. Come back to that. It's Joe Denley reverse sweeping, and that is a big shout, and he wants it. He's not going to get it. Umpire Martin Saggers says not out. So that was mighty close.
Suddenly batting looks rather tricky out there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, and it just shows you, I said about Kent holding their nerve, things could change very quickly in 2020. Delport is driving this one through the mid-off region. It's going to be the single, and Tendusgarda back on strike. So Trevor Ward, anyway, we're playing up at Headingley. I got a late doors call, actually, because Graham Cowdrey slipped getting out the bath, put his back out, so I got called up on the morning of the game, went up there, Martin Moxon made a double 100, batted on the second day, and ran Trevor Ward out by hitting it back, and Mark Robinson tipped it onto the stumps. A reverse sweep from Tendusgarda. This is a useful shot, and Imran Khan's got some work to do here. You mentioned the practice wickets before, Steve. He's on them now. I think he does well. I think he gets that back, and aided and abetted by Grant Stewart, but the Eagles run 3.
We'd be checking that, wouldn't we? With the third umpire, we'd be checking that one.
Yeah, I think he flicked the ball and then hit the rope. We might get a replay of it, we might not, but yeah, good bit of work from Khayyam. So, yeah, and then the following week, so Trevor was absolutely fine about it. Couldn't have been nicer about it. Happens once in a career, Dave. Don't worry about it. I should have turned a bit quicker as Denley's into Delport. He's trying a big shot over the top. It's a thick edge. It's going to spin away. And the spin, and you heard the old no there from effects Mike. Matt Mills reels it in eventually. I don't know if you picked that up watching at home on the stream, but we heard it through our effects Mike. Matt Mills going, oh no, and that was because the thick outside edge creates a lot of side spin, and it always goes on the second bounce.
Yeah, you could see it coming as well, couldn't you? Almost happened in slow motion, to be fair. The second bit of work was tidy.
Yeah, he's down the wicket again, aiming something fairly savage-like, but it's one bounce down to long on, and not too much damage done, so decent over from Joe Denley, 77 for 3 off 9. And just quickly to finish out Trevor Ward, so that was at Headingley. And then the following week we were at Trent Bridge on the flattest wicket in the world. Andy Pick bowling to me. Trevor Ward's on about 50, I'm on about 7. That's how well Trevor was hitting them. And once again I drove the ball back, little fingertip on from Andy Pick, and Trevor Ward was once again run out backing up. This time he didn't see the funny side. I don't think he spoke to me for a week.
3rd of October, finals day. Just wondering if you would have finished that story by then or not.
Ah,
I liked it. I loved it, really. I did enjoy it. I jest.
Ah, sorry, Michael McIntyre. So here comes Stewart to continue from the pavilion end. He's bowling to Delport. He's doing well because he's cramping him for room. Delport looks like he wants to swing it away. He prefers a little bit of width. Kent have done their homework.
Loved having Trevor Ward on that Spitfire session. Just the one and only time during the summer. They were great fun, weren't they, on Monday nights? Trevor Ward was terrific.
He was one of my favourite colleagues in terms of just for humour value. Didn't always mean to be funny, but there was always something funny happening when Trev was there. So Tendusgarda facing up to Grant Stewart, and he's cutting. It's the way of Tendusgarda. Oh, big chase gone! What a bit of work that is! What a great bit of work. Skipper absolutely loves it. And that is the end of Delport, who's walking off as slowly as I've ever seen a man leave a cricket ground. Let's have another little look at this. So back in action. Sam Billings take a bow.
Brilliant piece of work from Sam Billings. We've been talking during the course of this Vitality Blast campaign, haven't we, about wicket keepers who don't always get into the team as a keeper, and they're all superb fielders. Well, Sam Billings has proved it there. Sharp as you like, rip the glove off, round in a flash, shut down the stumps. And that is the end of the very dangerous Cameron Delport.
Yeah, that could be an absolutely pivotal moment in this match. And I guess what I would say is that Sam Billings has been playing for England and he hasn't been keeping wicket, has he? He's been flying around in the outfield. I think he got a run out the other day, playing in that one-day international. Similar kind of sidearm throw on the kind of off balance to his right. So the advantage of having Billings in the field is that he can do that kind of thing. I've just got some tweets coming in, Steve. Where are you watching us from? Watching the stream from Indiana in the USA. Adam Welp, hashtag Super Kent. So Torquay, Heathcliff House Torquay. Hoping the bowlers can come to the party today, absolutely. So Stewart is bowling to the new man, Paul Walter. So it's flicking the pad, umpire Nigel Long without his arms outstretched.
Was that one of those appeals just to make sure that Nigel Long heard something?
Yeah, I think it was to stop calling the wide. And Matthew Olsen has said, currently decorating the bedroom at home in Canterbury, watching the Spitfires on the laptop. So great to have you all with us. Do keep your tweets coming in. Hashtag Super Kent. Let us know where you're watching the stream from today. Not going to take Sam Billings on again. He's lightning fast there. He relished the opportunity of throwing down those stumps again.
Torquay would be nice if it's like this in Torquay today. Quite fancy little spot down on the coast there. The English Riviera, unless I'm mistaken, Torquay. Fish and chips. Pint.
Stewart, Walter, once again wrapped on the pad. Grant Stewart bowling an immaculate tight line here. Linda Boulding. Watching from Ashford and Swansea. So, all over the world. Quite a few people in Kent watching as well. I think the Fultons are watching. Let me see what the time is. No,
not at school?
No, they'll be at school. That's not to say they're not watching sneakily on the old mobiles. I hope they're not. If you are, boys, put them down. Study. Walter turns into the leg side. So it's going to be the single. Milnes does the fielding. So halfway stage. And Kent have really reeled it in. 79 for 4, the Eagles.
Well, the way things are going, the way politicians are talking at the moment, the Fultons may be off school again quite soon. Let's hope not.
God, let's hope not.
For everybody's sake, I mean.
For everybody's sake. There'll be a lot of people there who had to suffer the whole homeschooling. Absolute respect to teachers everywhere for putting up with our little darlings. But yeah, it was tough.
Joe Denley, 2 overs, no wicket for 19. He's going to be bowling here to Paul Walter, who's faced 4 balls, just a 1 to his name so far. Denley's into him, just leans on this to Zach Crawley. Hopefully Zach's hand is feeling a little bit better now. 80 for 4 in the 11th.
See, this is the benefits of social media. A lot of nasty stuff on social media, but this is an absolute cracker from Scott, who said, we're talking about salt, pepper, mustard and onions. You need some to put your salt, pepper, mustard and onions on. Might I suggest some Danny Lamb? Then all you need is a cook. There you go.
Oh, that's clever.
So, thank you very much for that contribution. That is the best tweet of the day, I reckon. A cook. How did we not think of that one?
That's why I don't do social media, because I realise how many people are cleverer than I. Here's Denley. Holding to Ryan Tendescarter.
Surely you didn't need social media, Steve, to tell you that.
Well, I hope the kids are off school after that comment. We're halfway through the 11th when Tom Wesley pulled Fred Clarkson for that 6. It was 54 without loss in the 5th. 4 wickets since then, the inevitable drag back of the run rates. Ryan Tendescarter's seen all this many, many times before. He'll be thinking if he can stay in and be there at the back end, he can give it a mighty whack. Here he is facing up to Joe Denley. Takes a step or 2 down, Joe Denley. A sorrowful appeal almost.
Yeah, good bowling from Denley. Saw him coming, dragged his length back. Tendescarter experienced enough to know that nowhere near the pitch of the ball, not to slog it, just to pad it away.
Good over this as Tendescarter belts one for 4. My goodness me, he got hold of that. There are 3 fielders out there looking at it, but it's dissected the lot of them, and it's gone for 4. Welcome boundary for the Essex Eagles. Ryan Tendescarter has 9, Paul Walter 3. Eagles are 86 for 4. I know the Eagles have won their last 2 games, but even so, it hasn't quite gone for them so far in this competition. I just wonder if you start thinking, oh no, as soon as it goes wrong, I wonder if the head just drops that bit quicker.
Yeah, possibly, but you know, they're dangerous. They've got nothing to play for really, other than pride, defending champions. Time for Tav's teaser, Steve. You'd be pleased to know. Hashtag Tav's teaser. That's what we want you to reply to us at Kent Cricket. Hashtag Tav's teaser, and Tav's teaser is this: 1995, we won. I think it was the AXA. It was a Sunday League, and a lot of players threw stuff over the balcony to the fans that were waiting underneath. One man had his shirt thrown over the top, and it had £250 in the pocket. Who was that player who lost his shirt and 250 quid?
Time for a bit of jack leaning. Paul Walter is pulling him, and he's going to get 4 runs for it. Alex Blake with the dive right in front of us. The ball clatters into the Lime Tree Cafe. There was very little space between Crawley and Blake. The ball just beats the pair of them. 4 for Paul Walter.
Yeah, this was a case of they were almost too close together. I think they were both thinking, is it mine, is it yours? And a little bit of hesitation, maybe a bit of lack of communication. It snuck through.
Leading's in, and he's bowling to Walter. Joe Denley gets a hand on that. He will come back for the second.
Yeah, good hand from Denley. That saved a couple of runs, no doubt. That would have made its way to the boundary. Just a reminder of that Tav's teaser then. 1995, we won the Sunday League here at Canterbury. And the shirt went over with 250 quid. In the pocket, whose was it?
Well, I actually wouldn't have had a clue, but you told me about this before the game started, so obviously I am going to keep stum. But I reckon if I could have had one guess, I might have got it. Here's Jack leaning, big appeal coming in, the sweep shot is out, Nigel Long is unmoved.
Yeah, just not straightening. Just needed that to bite and turn a bit, straightening up back towards the stumps, just on the angle and with the slope, heading down the leg side there.
Couple of dots in a row. Paul Walter looking to change things here. He does. As he cuts away. Joe Denley picks up smartly left-handed, wheels round, chucks him right-handed. The Essex Eagles move on to 93 for 4. You don't really, from a Spitfires point of view, want to be seeing Ryan Tendescarter still in towards the back end of this innings, do you? I've seen it many times. He does hit a long ball.
Yeah, he's experienced enough to pace this innings as well. That's the thing. He'll hit it if it's there to be hit. But he also does that.
that being a little tickle round the corner. It will be a single, so Ryan ten Doeschate will keep the strike. It's 94 for 4. It's been a terrific comeback this by the Kent Spitfires after a lightning start from the Essex Eagles, particularly from Tom Wesley during the power play. But things have calmed down very nicely from a Spitfires point of view.
More chat about the cricket condiment band. So we've had salt and pepper and lamb now, Danny Lamb and Alistair Cook to rustle things up. Onions and mustard, of course, the dynamic duo from Durham. And now David Terry has said Chris Pickles used to play for Yorkshire. So there you go. I think we found our level here. This is what we like, this kind of interaction with you guys out there. Because there's names from yesteryear that we'd never remember.
Imran Khan's got a good set of figures so far. 1 over, 1 for 5. Make that 1.1 overs. 1 for 5. Dot ball to start the over. There's going to be some names we've forgotten about. I must admit, I don't remember Chris Pickles. As Imran Khan bowls to Ryan ten Doeschate, who's looking to get down the pitch. Just has to check that movement a little. Improvises, gets it down to Heino Kuhn at the long off boundary.
I think I've got another one here. I'm just going to check it, but I'll tell you what I'm thinking about as I do so. Jamie Salmon, I think, played, was a rugby player, wasn't he? He was a centre for England, but I think he might have played one first-class game. I'm going to check right now.
As Imran Khan is in to Paul Walter, who's sweeping and gets plenty of it. And gets it all the way for 6. Over Jack Leaning's head. He has to make his way into the empty seating area, up the bank, over another set of barriers. He's still going Leaning. He's obviously got a fair way, this. It's a big old clump for 6, and the Essex Eagles 100 is up.
Yeah, his dangerous customer, Paul Walter. You see the size of him next to Ryan ten Doeschate. Got some long levers. He gives the ball a mighty thump. He can bowl left arm quick as well. It's the deck. Talented all-rounder. I think this is probably his strongest suit.
Well, Jack Leaning's Fitbit will have clicked around a few times. Going to fetch that ball. As this time Walter flicks through the mid-wicket area and gets himself another run. So he's moved on to 17 from 13 balls. Been a good start this though from Imran Khan. Of balls remain in this 13th over. As Dave Fulton does his salmon research. Khan into Ryan ten Doeschate, rocks back, cuts. Finds Leaning for a single.
The only problem with that Tabs teaser, of course, there are only a certain number of men on the balcony that day. So, yeah, it's there's some suggestions coming in. One is right already. There's a couple that aren't.
I don't want to give a clue away, but there'd only be a certain number of people with 250 quid in their shirt pocket, wouldn't there?
Yeah, it wasn't me, that's for certain. I was there, but I wasn't. Yeah, I've had 25 pence.
That'll do. The Water is sweeping again. This one's along the deck, so he's only going to get 1 for it. Managed to clear the ropes earlier in the over. So that completes the 13th. It's 104 for 4. I hasten to add, by the way, 1995, I would have been one of the people standing underneath the balcony. Not a penny, nothing.
Yeah, well, another clue was that it was a horrendous pink and white check shirt. So it might not have been your cup of tea as it came over, Steve. I don't know how old you were in 1995, but yeah, it was not on trend, I would suggest.
1995, I'm just trying to work out how old I would have been. Would I have started primary school? Would I have finished secondary school?
Chris Lee watching from the Folkestone Academy car park. Good to have you with us, Chris.
Here's Matt Milnes in, bowling to Paul Walter, who likes that pull shot. He's got that one away, but he'll only pick up 1 for it. Fred Clarkson gets the arm going. Very nice, Fred, is the shout. Zach Crawley, who's another one of the boundary riders. Matt Milnes, tidy figures so far. No wicket for 16 from his 13 deliveries so far.
God, this is... Fred has said, someone mentioned A. Cook Cook earlier. Would be great to include Sam Cook as well. But as they say, too many cooks spoil the broth. Yes, Simon Cook, too many cooks. And an Essex fan is listening to this, and he quite rightly mentions, don't dismiss Essex's chances just yet. That's what happened last year, and they ended up winning the thing.
Yeah, we remember it. We remember it very well. Another run to the total here.
I guess if things go their way, they currently sit 4 points behind Kent. If they win, they can. They'll obviously reel Kent in to the extent of that deficit being just 2 points. And if Surrey were to keep winning, then Essex, they could finish with 10 points. They're not dead and buried just yet, so watch out for that late Eagles charge. So yeah, good point.
Milnes into Walter, who's again looking to go leg side. All he's done is spoon it up to Daniel Bell-Drummond, and Walter has gone for 19. If we're not going to discount the Eagles, they can't keep losing these wickets. The Spitfires will hope they do. It's 106 for 5. Walter's gone.
Yeah, that wasn't Paul Walter's best shot. He's played nicely. He's that big six, big long sweep, but tried to hit Matt Milnes off a length there, spliced it up in the air. The simplest of catches for Daniel Bell-Drummond, without the responsibility of captaincy on his shoulders today. It'll be interesting to see how he bats, but he was never going to drop that, and that's a big wicket. So it's kind of up to these two, the senior men in this Eagles side, the skipper Simon Harmer, former captain Ryan Ten-Doeschate, after which we really are amongst the bowlers.
But I mentioned earlier that I'd had a few dealings with Simon Harmer. So that obviously means pre-COVID you shake hands with someone. They're like buckets. They are enormous. It's in hands like it.
Yeah, it does help when you're a spin bowler. You wrap those fingers around the ball. But I'm sure he'll have a big part to play and a lot to say when he gets the ball in hand. He's got a job to do with the bat here.
Ten-Doeschate is facing up, and he won't be getting a run here because he's picked out Joe Denley in the backward point region.
It's interesting how Ten-Doeschate plays this. I mean, he's a runner ball of 13 at the moment, and as he said quite rightly, Steve, he's seen it all before. But there is a rebuilding job to do here. If he gets out, then you're probably looking at 130, 140, which you think is nowhere near enough. It looked a good pitch, didn't it, when Delport and Wesley were going? They're going to need 170, you'd think.
Yeah, it's almost been an innings of two halves so far, the Wesley half and what's followed it, as Ten-Doeschate cuts directly to Fred Clarkson. So he walks through for an easy single. 107 for 5 with one ball remaining in the 14th over. Talking about Essex and last year's qualification, last year's victory in this competition. Absolutely discounted them on that final day. They needed so many results to go their way. I think I was at Taunton on that occasion. One by one the results went for them. The rest is history. 2 trophies in the bag last year. Here's Milnes in to Simon Harmer. He'll get himself off the mark. So that's the end of the 14th over. It's 108 for 5. 6 overs left in the innings. Ryan Ten-Doeschate, we keep saying it, can do serious damage if he's still there back end. Simon Harmer on 1, Ten-Doeschate 14.
Yeah, and Harmer's no slouch. He's a best of 43, which I guess doesn't sound that impressive, but you think where he bats in the order, he's not going to get too many opportunities to get 50s. He averages a shade under 19. He's a strike rate of over 130, so he gets his runs at a decent clip. And if you average 19 at this form of the game, batting where he bats, it means you're making regular contributions. So he's no mug with the bat. He's going to have Kayam to contend with.
Hit the winning runs in last year's competition, if I remember correctly. Simon Harmer in that fairly low-scoring final. It was a low-scoring day, finals day last year. All heading up to Birmingham again in a couple of weeks' time. Spitfires will hope to be there as Imran Kayam bowls to Simon Harmer. Belts it down to long on. Alex Blake in business down there.
Yeah, Sam Uden, I think it is, has tweeted, I'd love being able to watch all of the Kent games on YouTube, but please, for the love of God, stop talking about condiments. I'm kind of with him. I think we've exhausted all our condiment puns, but that's we've had lots of contributions, Sam.
I think, to be fair, I only mentioned it once. It's the rest of you've gone on with it. Now, this time around, Ten-Doeschate is going to come back for a couple. Daniel Bell-Drummond couldn't quite pick up clean. He's another one looking at his wrist now. A fair bit of that already today. ten Descartes on to 16. Kayam's into ten Descartes, back foot again. Down to long off. Heino Kuhn for another.
Blustery day, isn't it? Oh, our camera's getting a bit of a buffering.
Yeah, that camera has very little protection up there. This one is much steadier as Harmer times that quite nicely actually down to Zach Crawley. Just a little flick, race down to Zach, straight to him, so there'll only be another single to the total. It is blustery, isn't it? You've gone for 3 layers now. What is it? It's not even 3 o'clock, 3 layers on. As ten Descartes is down the pitch, and there is the evidence that Ryan ten Descartes can give it an almighty belt. It's gone straight into the van, which is holding up one of our cameramen down there.
Yeah, it was a shot that had plenty of conviction about it, didn't it? You can see James there, almost knocked off his perch. So thumped into the side of the van. Hope that's okay.
He'd be right in that breeze off the ground there, and he's got shorts on as Kyan bowls to ten Descartes, who cuts this time. It sort of dribbles out to Jack Leaning. So ten Descartes will keep the strike. 15 overs gone, 5 remain. It's 120 for 5. If the Spitfires can keep taking these wickets, they'll be right on top here. ten Descartes is still there, and Harmer, but particularly ten Descartes. Still a chance here for the Eagles to post a decent total.
Yeah, Wasp is saying 167. Remember, it was saying 197 earlier. I thought that was always a bit optimistic. That was after the start that Wesley and Delport had given the Eagles. A flying start. They've been reeled in. Sam Billings has done a good job. Keeps mixing up his bowlers. Wonderful run out as well. It's going to be Fred Klassen returning. What I liked about that 6 from ten Descartes, as we see it again there, as it thumps into the side of the van, was the conviction with which he went down the wicket. He's looking to go big. He's experienced enough to know if it's not in the slot, then he can bail out. But he got it exactly where he wanted it. And he only had one thing in his mind, and that was popping it over the fence. Here's Freddie. It's uppish. Quite get there. And the throw comes in. Well backed up by Jack Leaning. Needed in the end. Sam Billings was there.
So now we've exhausted the condiments. We can concentrate fully on Tad's teaser and the 250 notes in a shirt pocket chucked over the balcony. 1995.
It's a good-looking pull shot. It's going to go one bounce. I think Heino Kuhn is out on that deep mid-wicket fence. Well timed by Simon Harmer, who's had a couple of shots already. Looks to be in pretty decent touch. Yeah, 1995, we had the anniversary, didn't we, a couple of days ago of that Kent victory. I think that was Kent's first win since, I want to say, the 1978 County Championship, that one, if memory serves. So it was a good day. Someone made 250 quid. So ten Descartes just dabs that one down to short third man. This is a classic. I'm going to read out part of this tweet. Dave Booker says, was it such and such's shirt? I know it. Oh no, I know it wasn't Martin McCaig's shirt, as I have that, and there was no cash in there. No, it wasn't Martin McCaig's shirt. That was the wrong shirt. So the other name you mention, you might just be right. Pulling away is Simon Harmer. Just going to get a single. It's Daniel Bell-Drummond fields. But yeah, it's good that you at least got Martin McCaig's shirt. I hope you've washed it. It would have been sweaty.
Do you reckon it fits? Martin McCaig's shirt?
Well, Martin McCaig wasn't as big in 1995 as he would have been kind of 5 or 6 years later. I remember in 92 when he first arrived Macca. He was a beanpole.
He had those big shoulders though, didn't he?
He was solid, but he was a beanpole early on in his career. Klassen bangs it in once again. ten Descartes on the pull. He's got this in the gap. They'll be thinking 2. ten Descartes quick, even at 40 years of age. And they sensibly throw to Harmer's end. It gets back for 2.
Hard to think of Ryan Tendescarter being the big 4-0, isn't it? It's fit as a fiddle. Still looks exactly the same. Still a very, very effective player.
Yeah, had twins over the winter as well, so that might slow him down, but not a bit of it. He's pulling again, and this time he's going to get 4. I think Klassen's just overdone that tactic a little bit, and Tendescarter was waiting for it, and he got it between fine leg and Daniel Bell-Drummond at long leg. He's going to get a 4 for it.
Yeah, almost knew that was coming, didn't he, Tendescarter? And he's fully in control of that pull shot. Crucially getting it down behind square. That's always running away for 4. So a slightly disappointing end to what had been a good over up until that point. Just got my eye on Tendescarter here. 32 from 22, just beginning to pick up the pace. Simon Harmer at the other end, if they stay together for any length of time, I'm sure will be happy to knock it for 1 and get Tendo, as he's known, back onto strike. And still, as we said at the end of the previous over, a chance for the Essex Eagles to post a competitive total here. Wasp now saying 170. Went over 200 at one point.
Yeah, that was early on when the openers were going berserk. But, Wasp taking a more measured view now. 170 feels about right, doesn't it? I mean, it's not rocket science. You usually go 10 and over, don't you? Last 4 or 5, you're thinking 10 and over, 5 down. 170 seems about right. And I think Ken will be relatively happy if Essex end up on 170. It seems about par, and with all the batting power that Kent now have, with Sam Billings as well as Joe Denley and Zach Crawley in their ranks, you'd anticipate Kent feeling fairly comfortable at that kind of total.
Well, they'll be hoping if they can nip Tendescarter out for something rather less than 170 to chase.
Here's Milnes, change of end for him. Swinging away to the offside is Simon Harmer. He's got a good piece of it, and he's going to get another boundary. Dangerous customer, Harmer. Think of him with ball in hand and flight and guile and spin. And he can hold a bat.
Who's that with the PPE on down there? It's like a bin line that the Foxes have had. Leaning got the slide out. Danger to just talk about Tendescarter, because Harmer can be very handy.
Milnes, once again, he's wide outside off stump, and once again thrashing through the offside is Simon Harmer. This time he gets it squarer. 1 bounce throw from Jack Leaning, just the single.
Mentioned earlier, there's been big runs between these two teams in the last few seasons in the Vitality T20 Blast. Looks at the moment as though we're heading for something a little more sober.
Come back from Milnes. Dot balls at this stage of proceedings worth their weight in gold.
Yeah, full, wide. Tendescarter reaching for it, couldn't lay a bat on it. Good piece of bowling this stage of the innings. Any stage of the innings, but particularly now.
Tendescarter shuffles across. He's had a big swing at that, and he's going to run away. Kime's in hot pursuit. I think he's going to actually reel it in. Slides and throws, and they'll be content with a couple. So that wind just took full effect on our small camera on top of the sight screen. Tendescarter was kind of outside off stump, then he was down the wicket. Full shot.
How much do players consider breeze? Or I've heard commentators talking about it a lot when we talk about short boundaries, but when there's a stiff breeze like there is today, how much does that get in the mind of batsmen for boundaries to target, and indeed bowlers?
Well, look, it's crucial, isn't it? I mean, they're the small percentage things. If you're professional, you've got to work these things out. Hit with the breeze is generally the way to go. And batsmen and bowling sides will be very aware. Tendescarter swing and a miss. Another good bit of bowling. Oh, it's a wide. I say good bit of bowling. Arms outstretched from Martin Saggers. Good plan. Didn't quite nail it.
He got it spot on earlier in the over. Just a fraction wider of off stump there. Just a smidgen outside those blue lines. Those guides for the umpire. So Saggers is left with no choice but to stick the arms out. Martin Saggers been on international duty this summer.
He's done well, hasn't he? There's Milnes this time again wide outside off stump. Tendescarter's cutting. It's the strongest shot in his repertoire. It's a good bit of work from Leaning on the deep point fence. Going to get another 2. Tendescarter was thinking about 3. Harmer didn't want a bit of it. The other point I'd make about the wind, Steve, is is from a fielding perspective. You know, the ball's going up in the air, it's getting blown around. You've got to know when that ball goes up exactly where that wind is going. You know, I see young fielders all the time. You know, ball goes up in the air, they get underneath it, and it lands 5 yards to their left or right, and they're like, oh. And that's because they just haven't factored it into the equation. You know, ball goes up in the air. It's not a golf ball, but it still will get buffeted around. Interesting field here. We'll be seeing a little scoop or flip, short fine leg and backward squarer up. Tendescarter shuffles across and drives this powerfully down the ground to long off, just a single.
And that single will complete the 17th over, so 141 for 5. So who's got overs left here? Matt Mills is done for the day. 4 overs, 1 for 30. Ryan Tendescarter 37 from 26 balls. He's been in a fair time. He's just beginning to put the foot on the accelerator, isn't he?
Yeah, he's cranking it up, isn't he? And you look at that scorecard there. Cameron Delport, who we think went fairly quickly, obviously not at the same rate of Tom Westley, but you think Delport put his foot down early, 28 of 25, and Tendescarter's faced 1 more delivery than Delport, and already has 9 more runs. It's just an indication, and that's not in the power play either, so an indication of just what a quality batsman in those middle overs Ryan Tendescarter is.
Imran Khan, he's going to bowl his 4th and final over, 1 for 27. He got rid of Dan Lawrence earlier on in the piece. Dan Lawrence going for 3. He's bowling to Tendescarter, who pulls this one. The extravagant arc of the bat is going to be quick for the second here. Oh, and Billings is one of those where he's just trying to chuck the ball back onto the stumps. That looked as though that might have been tight. But he's back for the second. Tendescarter's on to 39. The 40-year-old doesn't look to be puffing too much either after a very quick 2 there. Very wide delivery down the leg side from Imran Khan. Easy decision for Nigel Long to turn round and signal the wide. Tendescarter trying to sweep it as soon as he missed it. Always going to be an extra to the total. 144 for 5. Here's Khan bowling to Tendescarter. Better delivery this time. Again, they're coming through for a very quick second. Running is excellent between these two. They'd hardly be amongst the junior ranks. Oh, 1 short. Oh, I can't remember the last time I saw that. Nigel Long signalling 1 short.
Yeah, and that would be against Tendescarter. So maybe those 40 years just catching up with him. He's down on his haunches. Maybe he's out of puff. But I'm out of puff just watching him, Steve, charging between the wickets. But yeah, at 40, not usually one to cut corners, Ryan Tendescarter. But he tried it on there with Nigel Long, and he was having none of it.
Yeah, I think I could have got 2 there if I've grounded a bat somewhere halfway down the pitch. It's another wide, so it's a bit of an untidy over this from Imran Khan. He's trying to bowl a tight leg side line to Ryan Tendescarter. He's just got it wrong on a couple of occasions. So this is going to be a long over this. 4 deliveries already, only 2 counts. 1 short run, but eventful. When was the last time you saw an umpire in a professional match signal a short run? As Tendescarter is happy to just push into the offside and get himself a single. Kent Spitfire's bowlers don't want to get too ragged here, do they, towards the back end of this innings?
Well, we saw, didn't we, just 2 days ago, victory margin of 2 runs for Middlesex. So every run counts in this format, that's for sure.
Hyam's in. Simon Harmer is backing a long way to leg, and he's now heading back to the Les Ames stand because he's got and picked out Jack leading in front of the Frank Woolley stand. Great time to take a wicket. Harmer's gone for 10.
Yeah, once again, Tendescarter down on his haunches, doing all this running between the wickets. But yeah, decent little knock that from Simon Harmer, 10 off 7. He got a good piece of that one to long on as well. So we'll take a second look as Matt Milnes puts the arm just a bit off the toe. And Jack leaning does the rest. Pretty straightforward catch. Well bowled, Immy. And Harmer, I guess, being hypercritical, the fact that Kyan was just bowling that line rather than backing away and making it into a decent line might have been better advised to stay where he was. Leg side wide, perhaps. But maybe credit to Kayam, who saw him back away and followed him.
Most of the deliveries in the over so far have been very, very similar. They've been tight. The batsman's pads. Hasn't always got it right. So it's proven to be quite a long over, but it's been a fruitful one now with the dismissal of Simon Harmer for 10.
Just looking at Tenduskarta's scores, Steve, in this year's T20. So 35, 37 not out, 32, 42, 27 not out, 1 and 29 not out. And what is he today? 41 not out. So he's remarkably consistent. You know, just one innings where he's failed.
Jack Plom is the new batsman, who's going to get off the mark straight away with a single. Tenduskarta 41 from 29 balls so far.
Tenduskarta is batting with a plum. There you go. It's the best I've come up with today.
Tenduskarta's looked to go big here. Tenduskarta has gone very big. There's an enormous clatter off the Frank Woolley stand. I couldn't see it because it had gone so far. Enormous shot.
Oh.
And the Essex Eagles 150 is up.
Credit to Jack Leaning, whose father was a goalkeeper, wasn't he? It just reminded me of a goalkeeper just watching the ball sail into the back of the net. But what he actually did was he just waited for it to bounce back off the seats in the Frank Woolley, and it came straight back to him. Take another look at this. What a great shot from Ryan Tenduskarta. His Leaning's underneath it. He's just out of shot, but it bounced back. And there, back it came to him. Well judged.
That was huge, wasn't it? Absolutely enormous. So Imran Kayam has done. It's an expensive finish. That massive six from Tenduskarta, who's on the verge of another half century for the Essex Eagles. Don't know whether you have his stats there, but 50s for him in T20 cricket.
Yeah, 33 50s to go with 200s. And of course, he's also got 5 one-day international hundreds for Holland. 2, I think, in the 2011 World Cup. So, you know, vastly experienced Tenduskarta, and he's showing that. Just as I mentioned, the one single-digit score in this year's campaign. Everything else has been 30s and 40s, and he's doing it once again for his team. What a player.
Grant Stewart's got tidy figures so far. 3 overs, no wicket for 17. He's bowling to Jack Plom, who knocks it down to Heino Kuhn for a single. 11 balls remaining in this Essex Eagles innings. Went off like a bullet out of a gun, particularly Tom Wesley. Wickets then started to fall. The rate was dragged back. Tenduskarta now is looking to give the Eagles a strong finish in this battle of the bridge. Although the Eagles, the Essex Eagles, on their way home tonight, they'll have to navigate the Dartford Tunnel on a Friday night. Good luck with that.
Yeah, it's just about the only bonus of a pandemic, isn't it? The M25 and the Dartford Tunnel. It's been a bit better.
Not much though, as Grant Stewart bowls to Tenduskarta. And all he can do is find Matt Milne, so it gets another single to his name. One of the games we did here, I drove home. I go all the way down the A2, M2A2, pick up the M25 for a junction and back in on the A20. You should have seen the queue for the tunnel one night. I was very smug behind the wheel going in the other direction. One of those awful drivers going the other way who's not being held up. Horrendous queue. And I did think, look, all these people who are working at home, these people are still on furlough. Look at this queue. Here's Grant Stewart bowling to Plom. He's done him there with a slower ball. They're able to come through for a leg bye. So tidy over so far from Grant Stewart, who's now running back to his mark. Cut-off is 3:17. Clock's just ticked over to 3:15. So he should be all right.
Yeah, it should be okay. Got to complete this over by that time on the cut-off. But yeah, if the ball goes out the ground, the umpires will allow a little bit extra time. So I think it'll be fine here.
Tenduskarta on the verge of a 50. Tenduskarta pulls round the corner towards us. That's very nearly cleaning me up. And Tenduskarta gets the half century. It's been another terrific knock from the former Eagles skipper. He's gone through to a very, very nice looking 50.
Yeah, 32 balls, 3 fours, 2 sixes. He's a classy player, vastly experienced. He's paced this innings beautifully. You know, we saw it, I think he was 13 off 13, something like that. Just knocked it around, content to pick up 1s and 2s. And then he explodes towards the back end.
Doing pretty much what we expected. But he's gone now. Terrific from Grant Stewart. Goes wide, goes full. Tendusgarda at this stage of the innings is looking to belt it away. He's gone past the half century. Just like Joe Cracknell the other day for Middlesex. Brings up the 50 and goes the next ball. 52, good knock for the Eagles. Caught behind by Sam Billings.
Yeah, he's deserved that, Grant Stewart. He's been the pick of the seamers today, no question. Going at under 6s, and others are going at 10s. And he's picked up the dangerous Tendusgarda. Still played a fine hand, but even late in the day, a wicket such as Tendusgarda can be the difference of 10-15 runs. So, big scalp. Aaron Nijar, the new batsman.
Yeah, Aaron Nijar with 24 on his back, and the good news for the Spitfires is, with 7 balls remaining, we're in amongst the tail. We've got 2 new batsmen at the crease as well, so no one's set for these dying stages of the Eagles' innings as Stewart bowls to Nijar, who's happy to push him away and think about a second, but just a 1 it will be. So he will keep the strike. Excellent day for Grant Stewart. 4 overs, 1 for 24. Quite right, Dave Fulton. Pick of the seamers for Kent today.
Yeah, excellent work from Stewart. Nijar has equalled his career best in 2020 cricket. Probably doesn't bat that often. In fact, he's only had this is only his 3rd innings. It's his 11th match, 3rd innings. 1 not out, his best so far. So can't tell you much about him other than he's got 53 in a first-class game. He averages 23, so that a bit. And any runs he can muster here will be valuable for his side. I got chastised by an Essex fan who correctly reminded me that Essex are not out of this year's T20 Blast. They win this and they win their final game. They might sneak in the back door much as they did last year, Steve.
Yeah, I don't think we actually ever said they were out of it, did they? Did we? I think we said
No,
they were struggling.
I was pretty much writing them off.
Did that last year. Look what happened. Here's Fred Clarkson. Final over of the innings. Takes a big step outside off stump there. Aaron Nijar, Alex Blake with the fielding. They will come back for a couple, so they are set for this 170, which we picked out around about 5 overs ago. Ryan Tendusgarda was there for the final over. They'll be looking for 170 plus. Might still get it, but that could yet prove to be a very valuable knock from Tendusgarda for the Essex Eagles. Spitfires will be happy at the moment though. Clarkson is in, left arm over the wicket, bowling to Nijar. This one's gone aerial. It's a nasty one for Heino Kuhn. Bounces just in front of him. One of those can hit the shins, it can spin and go for 4. So good work there.
Yeah, good bit of work from Heino Kuhn. Never nice. You're running in, do I get the full-length dive out? Perhaps get it in the teeth, but he judged it really well because he was attacking it, he was thinking about the catch. At the last minute decided to almost parry it on the half volley. Saved a couple of runs.
4 balls in the innings as Clarkson bowls to Aaron Nijar, who is on his way. Edge through to Sam Billings. He makes no mistake. And Nijar has gone for 5. So it is 166 for 8.
Yeah, more importantly from a Spitfire's point of view, it's a dot ball. Dot ball, get a new batsman in, but balls can fly to all parts at this stage of an innings, and this is why it's so important. That wicket of Tendusgarda, you know, if he's in, you take 20 odd off and over. But it's a tall order for these tail enders to come in and start smoking it to all parts. So, useful wickets at the back end for the Spitfires. Wasp was hovered all over the place, isn't he? It was up at 200. It was 197. I didn't think they'd get that. But, about 170. Seemed about right. And they're on course.
So here's Clarkson in, bowling to Sam Cook, I believe, is the new batsman. He was. Sam Cook has been in. And he's gone.
Oh, it is Sam Cook, is it? Yeah. The board's got it as Matt Quinn, but I think that is Sam Cook. Didn't know much about history. Didn't know much about that delivery from Fred Clarkson. He's on his way. Spitfires. Was hovered all
But
over
what
the
I do
place,
know
and there was up at 200,
is that I love you.
They get that. 170 seemed about right.
Well, that didn't last too long, did it? So Sam Cook being gone. So here's Clarkson in. So who's left here? Matt Quinn? Sam Cook, I believe.
Yeah, I think it might be Matt Quinn.
He was.
And what a wonderful world it would be if we saw a Freddie Clarkson hat-trick just to round things off.
Do you know what a slide rule is for?
I think that is Sam Cook.
Because I certainly don't. I'm thinking here that Matt Quinn actually might not have been ready for this.
Yeah, I think that's probably why. He was down to come in, wasn't he, ahead of Sam Cook? Perhaps a flurry of wickets at the end. Sometimes you can need the loo just at the wrong time before you know it. 2 wickets have fallen. Sam Cook's running out the door saying, "I'll bat now."
So who's left here?
And, Quinn finds himself at number 11 and striding in, facing a hat-trick ball.
Yeah, hat-trick ball. We were talking earlier off there, weren't we, about Dean Headley and all those hat-tricks. Was it 1996?
1996, 3 hat-tricks in a season. He had 2 in a game, didn't he? I think that was the anniversary of that a couple of days ago. I saw on the Kent social media feed. Martin McCaig and Dean Headley, both hat-tricks here in Hampshire.
Well, Matt Quinn it is who's facing the hat-trick ball from Freddie Clarkson. Oh my word. That wasn't too far away from the edge of the bat. It was a nervy-looking shot. Just survives the hat-trick ball.
It disappoints me in Sam Bennings. So where's his sense of adventure? 4 slips, 2 gullies, bat pad. It's a hat-trick ball, Bilbo. Come on, get him in there. 1996, 3 hat-tricks in a season. He had 2 in a game, didn't he?
Yeah, it's also a dot ball.
Anniversary of that a couple of days ago. I saw on the Kent social media.
A terrific final over this from Fred Clarkson. Just feels a huge moment. Ryan Tenderscarter not being there for the very final part of this innings, as shy of the stumps from Billings, and they will manage to complete a bye. So that concludes the Essex Eagles knock. 167 for 9, 168 will be the victory target for the Kent Spitfires. I should think the Spitfires will be the happier of the 2 teams. The Eagles got off to a right rocket, with Tom Wesley in particular playing a lovely innings right at the top. He opened up with Cameron Delport, but when Wesley went, things changed quite quickly, and the reason the Essex Eagles are up to 167 is mostly due to Ryan Tenderscarter. But a decent day for the Spitfires in the field here. They'll be confident of chasing down 168 from 120 balls.
Yeah, you're quite right, Steve. When Wesley was going, they were at 11 and over. They were 54 without loss of 4.4, so rattling along at 11 and over. He was going nicely on 39 of just 19 balls, 7 fours and a 6. Delport wasn't quite at his fluent best with 28 off 25, but the wickets really slowed them up. But it was that innings of Ryan Tenderscarter, who's had a terrific campaign. Once again in the runs, 52 off 33, runs 2 from Water and Harmer to just get Essex up to that 167. Clarkson finished with 3 for 36, but also wickets for Kayam and Grant Stewart, who was the pick. 4 overs, 1 for 24. All of 39, which means that the Kent Spitfires will need 168 for victory. Remember, 28 off 25, but the wickets really slowed them up. But it was that innings of Ryan Tenderscarter who's had a victory for the Spitfires will mean they qualify for the quarter-final. 33, runs 2 from Water and Harmer to just get Essex up to that 167. We'll be back for the run chase. In the meantime, thanks to our sponsors and partners, but also here are a few ads for Kayam and Grant Stewart. Was 1 for 24. All of 39, which means that the Kent Spitfires will need 168 victory. Slowed them up, but it was that innings of Ryan Tenderscarter who's had a victory for the Spitfires will mean they qualify
From your kids' school, the buildings on your way home, the place you live and the places we cherish, Redec and their award-winning team have been refurbishing, redecorating, protecting and conserving buildings, churches, railway stations, colleges, cafes and castles across the county of Kent for over 30 years. Redec, Chartered Building Contractors of Kent. From your kids' school, the buildings on your way home, the place you live and the places we cherish, Redec and their award-winning team have been refurbishing, redecorating, protecting and conserving buildings, churches, railway stations, colleges, cafes and castles across the county of Kent for over 30 years. Redec. Chartered Building Contractors of Kent.
Kit and people, as we've already heard here from Dave Booker, who said he got Martin McCaig's shirt, but in one shirt, a pink and white check shirt, there was £250 in the pocket. That shirt, of course, yes, it belonged to Matthew Fleming. So well done all of those who got it right. The only man that could afford it would have that amount of cash on him, the multi-billionaire Matt Fleming, says Bagsy. I think multi-billionaire might be pushing it, but yeah, it was indeed Matt Fleming. So well done those who got that right. There's absolutely no prize for winning Tab's teaser, but well done to those who got it.
Well, I wouldn't mind being a pound behind him as Jack Plom starts setting you over, and he's dismissed Crawley. Middle stump. Crawley looking to play away to the leg side. And I'm afraid his stumps have been disturbed and Crawley's on his way. So we enjoyed that lovely straight four from him in the previous over. 9 to his name, he's gone. First Spitfires wicket down, 15 on the board.
Yeah, well bowled, Jack Plom. It's a big scalp, about as big as they come here. I'm just going to look and see if that ball nipped back. I think in truth it was just top of the off stump and Crawley was aiming across the line. It's so frustrating from a Kent perspective because he's in wonderful touch. England's tool number 3 have got a lot of batting, but you can't help but think that's a big blow to the Spitfires. Slow start, you can deal with that so long as you're not losing wickets. England's double centurion from the Aegeus Bowl and 100 just a few days back. He's gone for 9.
Joe Denley striding out to the middle. A rare sight in recent times of Joe Denley in a Spitfire shirt in the Vitality Blast, a punch of gloves with Daniel Bell-Drummond. He'll sort his guard out with umpire Nigel Long, and he'll be facing up to Jack Plom. Hard to top this, 0.1 overs, 1 for 0. Can I have a rest, please, Skip? Striding out to the middle.
Yeah, my first look at Plom.
A rare sight in recent times of Joe Denley in a Spitfire shirt in the
Kent will know much about him either.
Often a worry. Zach Crawley will know a bit. He's in that about to Denley, sort of hanging a bat out there. And it just dribbles through to Michael Pepper. He's got the gloves on for the Essex Eagles this afternoon. Can I have a rest, please, Skip?
Yeah, my first look at Plom. It's just his 4th game. He's played the last 3 for Essex in this competition, so we said, didn't we, that he's won 2 of those. They've won the last 2. 2 for 18 against Hampshire.
Hair flowing and bouncing behind him as he bowls to Joe Denley. He's got that one just ever so slightly wrong. That's all you need when you're leg side. So that'll be a wide. 16 for 1.
Just looking at his top flight appearances before the start of this 2020 campaign, he hadn't played since the 6th of August 2019, so actually a year between matches, which is the kind of way of things in the modern world in the pandemic. Yeah, 6th of August 2019 and then 11th of September this year.
Here he is bowling to Denley, who's tucking him very nicely indeed off his legs for 4 runs. So that'll be a wide. Meet and drink that for Joe Denley. Timed it beautifully. Gets his first boundary.
Plom got rid of one England batsman, and out comes another one. He'd be well advised to stay off the hips of Joe Denley. Which is the kind of way of things in the modern world. Flicking that away. Effortless and elegant Denley through the leg side. Went at his best.
Denley, who's tucking him very
Not
nicely
from him
indeed
today.
off his legs for 4 runs. I'll give you the Joe Denley cover drive when he absolutely nails it and holds the pose. It's a thing of beauty. Well, I thought we were going to get one then, but he just waits for this. Just dabs it down the 3rd man off the back foot for a couple. Some players just look elegant, don't they? There's that thinking, isn't there, in cricket, that left-handers, for some reason, always have a certain... I think because we always reminded of David Gower, but they have this certain elegance about them. But for the right-handers, there aren't too many who look better than Joe Denley at the crease when he's in form. Spitfire's point of view, I hope that's the case today. Here's Plom, stuff on his toes, Denley. Won't get a single here. Just look elegant, don't they? So he picks out Aaron Nijjar, who's inside the circle at mid-wicket.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the left-handed
some elegance
David Gower
about them, but for the right-handers,
probably style
there
all
aren't
that.
too many who look better
Elegant.
than Joe Denley at the crease
Not
when
a
he's
lot of
at
foot
four.
movement, but beautiful timer of a cricket ball. But these days we've had Alistair Cook and Rory Burns, who perhaps not as easy on the eye aesthetically.
Jack Plom's into Denley. He's absolutely belted that. The bowler's got a hand on it. Are we going to see another person ringing the wrist here?
Oh, this is close.
Brilliant gloves. Gonski.
Oh, that's close. That is close. I thought so. Full.
Yes, Tommy. Yes, Tommy.
It's well bowled. I'll get two here. Yeah, terrific. Oh, that's close again.
Have a look. Brilliant. That's brilliant.
Oh, gone. Has he got this? Has he got this? No, he hasn't. Another wicket. Matt Parkinson with his final delivery. Still in this Lancashire Lightning. Terrific win for Lancashire Lightning. They've held the nerve. Yorkshire were firm favourites. The wonderful partnership between Joe Root and Adam Lyth. But it's Lightning's night.
And that made it 2-2 against Yorkshire, and I think Yorkshire have only won once in the last 3 years against Lancashire in the Vitality Blast. I said that Keaton Jennings was uniquely qualified to talk about this fixture between the Lightning and Durham. I was wrong, because we've got two people uniquely qualified. I think that's slightly grammatically incorrect. But Graham Onions, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much.
I think the move was basically trying to give at least an extra over's worth of warm-up to yourself, so that it prevented you from coming over and talking to him.
No, he's good. I was quite happy. My hand's getting a bit sore. He's bowling some fast balls there, so he's good to go.
How impressed have you been with those 2 wins over Yorkshire?
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. The first performance was a win, so we'll take it, but it could have been better. And then obviously last night's performance was outstanding. I thought the intensity in the field, the way that the spinners bowled after the power play were equally outstanding as well. So obviously qualification's great, but we want that home quarter. So I think today's obviously a huge game against a good opposition that have won three of the last 4, maybe, or
3 out of the last 3.
Oh, there you go then. Yeah.
They are in good form, but let's talk to Keith though about Liam Livingstone and be able to see just some of what Liam Livingstone managed to produce last night in a man of the match performance. Given that the opening partnership for Lancashire statistically has been so crucial to them over the course of their successful years, and the part that you played as well earlier on the season in that, I mean, what does Liam have that makes him so special at the top of the order?
To be honest, it's sort of the aggression he shows towards a bowler. I think obviously my style is very different to his, but I mean, if you ask Bunny from a bowler's point of view, and somebody comes at you with that sort of aggression, that sort of firepower and that sort of skill as well, I mean, it takes a really good skill level to be able to manipulate the ball and then be able to hit it out the ground as well. So all that sort of mixed in makes a really good combination between him and Davo. So look, I mean, it's brilliant to have him back. I mean, you saw last night just the sort of the power he can have and the way he can sort of take that game sort of really quickly away from you. So it's brilliant. Look, to have him back, and I mean the way he's bowled as well. It's just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it was funny. He told us, and he said to Sky as well last night here in the UK, that actually being away with England, not having the chance to bat at all because he didn't get the chance to play, meant that he was bowling to everybody in the net. So he appreciated that his bowling had improved, but. Keaton makes the point, Graham, particularly with this short boundary that we've spoken about in the England-Australia game and also last night in the Roses match. How do you bowl to somebody like Liam to try and prevent him targeting that shorter boundary?
Well, $1 million question. He's a good player, very, very good player. And the wind's coming this way as well, so everything from that far end, he's going to be going leg side, looking towards that short boundary. But look, it's tough. You've got to be clever. You've almost got to try and think a step ahead of them. In the first 6, it's very tough. It's very much damage limitation, really. But I always challenge our bowlers to keep that mentality of trying to take wickets. If you do that, you'll bowl your best ball, and that'll give you the best chance to try and limit the volume of scoring shots that he's got. But look, I've just been flicking at him as well, and he intimidates you just by obviously his stature, but also he hits the middle of the bat 9 times out of 10. If he does, it's going to fly out the park.
I think especially here at Old Trafford, because generally you'll see the ball sort of get softer as it gets older. Scoring becomes a little bit tougher. So that first 6, as like Bunny was saying, becomes damage limitation. And you got a guy like Livy going well, hitting the ball as clean as he does. It literally becomes petrifying because you can't stop the ball flying around. So that first 6 overs, he can take the game away from you quite quickly.
Yeah, that was the story last night, wasn't it? It was the battle of the second wicket partnerships, trying to make as much as you can out of that the first 10 overs or so. But what we're going to see now is obviously Lancashire in the field, and what we saw last night in particular was an extraordinary performance in the field in terms of run-outs. So, I mean, we're going to show you the 3 run-outs from last night, particularly the one that got Joe Root was brilliant fielding, wasn't it?
Yeah, massively. Look, I mean, especially out that side, because it's so big. I mean, you'll see the sort of quicker guys, more nimble guys with good arms out sort of that side, because you get the ball in quite quickly and try and cut off twos and create those sort of run-out chances. So, I mean, you'll probably see Paul Coughlin out there, who's renowned as being one of the sort of quicker guys around the sort of cricketing world. So, look, it's a tough field to field on because it is so big. It does create opportunities for those type of scenarios, which is fantastic. So hopefully we can do that again. And get that one run out of game that can change the game. As you saw last night, that momentum just seems to shift as the ball's getting old and you get that wicket. It's hard to start. So hopefully we can do that again this afternoon.
Yeah, if there's ever any argument, the fielding is the 3rd most important discipline. We saw last night how important it is, because the second wicket partnership was broken, and then the next wicket after that was also a run-out.
Well, it won us the game really in the end, didn't it? Really. I mean, obviously you talk about the batting and the bowling, but the fielding won us the game last night. I mean, Al Davies ran around that big boundary, little man, his little legs were running around the boundary, and he was picking the ball up and shining it in. So, yeah, I mean, the intensity compared to the other night at Headingley was completely different. We were up for it. We knew that qualification, and just the intensity in and around the lads. We wanted that win yesterday, and obviously we want a home quarter as well, so the lads will be well up for this game as well.
Just tell us about the last over, because 12 were needed off Sakib Mahmood's last over. It was his first opportunity to play here, obviously, for Lancashire. How impressed were you with the way that he bowled that last over? We'll show it to you now. It was a great example of how actually the length can be as much as the variation in pace.
Well, it's a great example of how to use that long boundary. You know, very much ball into the pitch, slow balls, getting the guys to hit towards that side, really. You talked about before about trying to defend the shorter side, but there's also a skill in trying to defend that longer side as well. And obviously he can bowl a quick ball, but you know, the slow balls into the pitch is hard for someone like Tattersall last night to hit the ball, you know, very much out the ground. You know, it's a 100-metre boundary over that way. It's a massive boundary.
And into the wind as well, so it becomes twice as long. So you're feeling like you can hit it 3 times, it's not getting anywhere near. So, like Benny was saying, it is a skill and it's hard.
Tell us you said that it will probably be less than 160 odds that we saw last night. What kind of target would you think Lancs would be comfortable chasing, even though we know the benefits of batting first?
Well, look, I mean, batting second you want as little as possible, obviously. But yeah, 10, 15 would probably be a decent chase. No, look, I mean, it would probably be around the sort of 150 mark. Slightly lower, slightly more use on it. It's the daytime as well, so it will be a slightly sort of harder and drier, as opposed to the night time when there's a little bit of dew around. That's just my pre-game call. I've had a little look at it, but I mean, that's kind of would be my sort of reading of the situation.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout, really. I would say that the power play is going to be key. Potentially a lot more pace off in the power play, but also the pressure's on them, because they're going to have to think, well, okay, last night was 160. If they go too hard and try and get 160, 170, then they could actually, you know, the score could come right down. Equally, if we don't bowl well in the power play and we leave too much up the spinners, that they could get off to a bit of a flower as well. So in a way, it's not a bad toss to lose, really. Put them under pressure and see how they go about their business.
Yeah, that's interesting, is what Dane said, because actually, given that they have to win and they're batting first, they're not necessarily sure how to play on this pitch, and indeed what a good target is to set. So, to Graham, thank you very much. To Keaton, thank you for joining us as well. We'll probably hear from both of you later in your unique positions to be able to talk about Lancashire against Durham. Thank you very much indeed. So yes, indeed, it is Durham who've won the toss, and they will be batting first. We'll get to see the Lancashire, well, Danny Lamb's out there at least. We might be able to see 10 other players as well who are just off camera ready to come on. And you will be taken through this Vitality Blast North Group game but the dulcet tones of the BBC commentators Martin Emerson and Scott Reed. We're back here at half-time.
They're still hoping to try and see Durham if they can sneak into the quarter-finals, but I think they'll need a bit of jiggery-pokery going their way to try and finish third and reach a quarter-finals. Lancashire last night secured their secured a quarter-final with victory against Yorkshire, and tonight they'll be trying to secure another win, and that'll be a big step towards a home quarter-final, which will be obviously a big boost for them as well. It is another glorious evening. Absolutely beautiful conditions in Manchester. It really is. It's picture perfect. Albeit there's a little bit of wind blowing across the ground as we look from east to west, but the skies are blue, the sun is shining. We enjoyed a good night last night with the Roses fixture. It was good fun to watch, and we'll see if this game can match it. I'm alongside Martin Emerson for today's game. We'll hear from Keaton Jennings throughout the course of the match as well. Martin is with me. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. It is a lovely day, isn't it? Beautiful conditions, blue skies. The sky's the limit from a Lancashire point of view, because they've qualified. There's only 4 years where they haven't made the quarter-finals in 18 seasons of T20. Durham still have an outside chance of a third-place finish. They are third at the moment, but their last 2 matches here against the second team, and then at Trent Bridge on Sunday against the top team, so they've got their work cut out. But they have won the last 3 after a slow start, in which they lost the opening game against Lancashire. Quite one-sided affair it was, as Lancashire made 170 in their opening stand. And Keaton Jennings, who you mentioned, got 108 against his former team. And that was the only match that took place that night, so Durham were the only side in the country without a point, as everybody else had their matches rained off. And they've been playing catch-up since then, but they have beaten Derbyshire and Leicestershire and Yorkshire away in their last 3 matches. If you're wanting some crumb of comfort from a Durham point of view, they have won on 3 of their last 5 visits here. So 2015 and 16, and then 2018 in that final over where Liam Travascus took 3 wickets for 1 run. And they definitely needed to win the last 2 to try and go through as one of the best third-place sides, because the other 2 teams in the other groups who are third have 2 more points than Durham.
We shall see, but it's been, as you mentioned, bearing in mind it took a while to kind of get up and running in the format this year for Durham. It's been a good few games for them in 3rd position, fresh from a victory against Yorkshire, looking for win number 4 of their group campaign. So here we go. The first ball of the match is a delivery by Tom Hartley to Alex Lees. That's down the leg side. So a wide has been signalled by the umpire, so Durham are up and running, 1 without loss. Hartley into Lees again. And that's just dabbed up through mid-on for a single. First run off the bat for Lees and for Durham. The score moves on to 2 without loss with Graham Clark, the batsman, alongside Alex Lees. Lancashire last night managing to hold their nerve in the end, because it was a little tight, that Roses match, with Root and with Lythe batting it. In truth, Yorkshire probably should have gone on to win it. They were in such a strong position. Lancashire found a way to win that match. We're using the same pitch. It's the same pitch that was used on last night, which was the same pitch that was used on for the one-day international against Australia, the final one-day international. So Hartley's into Clark. Eased away through square leg for a single, and the score moves on to 3 without loss. So little surprise, I think, that when Durham won the toss about half an hour ago, that they decided to have a bat first, because it ain't going to get any easier to bat on. As Hartley's in to Lees, looks to sweep it. Now the ball, off a thin something, disappears down towards the boundary, but below us for 4 runs. A little thin bottom edge off the bat of Lees as he looked to sweep that delivery, and down towards the boundary for 4. So 7 without loss now, halfway into the first over, the first boundary of the game for Durham. So yeah, we're on the same pitch. So there'll be plenty of spin again today. Oh, that's a good looking shot. That's 4 runs for Alex Lees. Punched down the ground through a straight mid-off for 4 runs. And Lees moves up to 9. And Durham 11 without loss. And I like this bright yellow top with a little blue on the sleeves there. And Lancashire all in red. Tom Hartley blows a little bit of air into his hands and twirls his way back in to Lees. He's down on one knee, trying to pull the ball. And he picks out Stephen Croft backward of square on the leg side. And there's no run. So here we go, the final ball of the first over. Hartley to Lees again. He gets a single. Just nudged away through the onside. Croft coming round from Square leg to field. Throws in on the bounce to George Lavelle, who keeps the gloves. It's the end of the first over. With Durham 12 for 1 after 1 over. There's plenty of other games taking place today and indeed later on tonight, so we'll keep you across the games as they unfold. But just to run through the formalities of the two teams, Lancashire are unchanged. It's the same 11 that started last night. Starts again this evening. So Alex Davis, Liam Livingston, Stephen Croft, Dane Villas, Rob Jones, George Lavelle, Danny Lamb, Luke Wood, Tom Hartley, Saqib Mahmood and Matt Parkinson. There's Saqib Mahmood looking to open the bowling from the Statham end. Game number 2 for him. Having come back into the Lancashire team last night for the Roses fixture. He's been away with England in that biosecure bubble. Here comes Mahmood striding in. Statham end and bowls. Lees just pushes away into the offside. And there is no run. As for Durham, well, they have Graham Clark along with Lees. Ben Rain, David Benningham, Burradine, Cars, Paul Coughlin, Scott Steele, Liam Travaskis, Matthew Potts, and the skipper is Nathan Remington. 12 without loss with 1 ball into the second over. Back for game number 2 at Emirates Old Trafford for Lancashire this season. Mahmood right on over the wicket balls and pushed up to mid-off, where Luke Wood picks up and got through for a good single there. Made his mind up quickly, Lees, that he wanted 1. Just easing the ball past the bowler and up towards Luke Wood. Decides against looking to throw at the stumps. 13 without loss. Lees moves on to 11 and Clark on to 1. Mahmood bowling the final ball of that Roses fixture last night and bowling it superbly. Had a wee bit to work. I think it was 12, wasn't it, required off the last over last night. Back into to Clark. It's cut. It bounces just up towards the man at point. And there's no run, but Dane Villas last night was went to his main man, to Saqib Mahmood, to bowl that final over. Surely would have enjoyed being back in and amongst the Lancashire players, actually just back playing, having been away in that England bubble, but not featuring in the one-day internationals against Australia. Sure, he was chuffed to get a game, get a run out last night. Mahmood to Clark. Little step to the leg side and carves the ball quite ferociously through the offside. And that's 4 runs to that short boundary. Rob Jones there reaching down to scoop up the ball. But even though the offside field is well guarded, there's 4 inside the ring on the offside. As soon as Clark there was able just to find a gap between point and extra cover, it rattled its way towards the rope. If you beat the infield and there's no sweepers on that shorter side boundary, then you're going to get full value for it. A move back into Clark, who swats it through mid-wicket this time. And then Stephen Croft tumbling at the edge of the square, picking up the ball. Clark moves to 6. The score moves on to 18 without loss. Got 1 ball left of the second over. Brings Alex Lees back on strike. Lancashire, the field for Lees for this final over, there's a deep backward square leg and there's a third man. There's a short fine leg, mid-wicket, mid-on, mid-off. And then cover, extra cover, and point. The bowling from the Statham end. The breeze brushing into Mahmood's right-hand side. An east to west breeze today. Mahmood in to Lees. That's cut down towards the wide third man boundary. Wants a second. And comes back for 2. Yeah, teammates appreciate that. That's good running by Clark. And that completes the second over. Clark has 6, Lees on 13. So 2 overs gone. Durham batting first, won the toss. Decide to have a bat first. Or 20 without loss after 2 overs. The equation this evening for Lancashire, if they win, then they could find out by the close of play today whether they'll have a home quarter-final, because it depends on what happens with the games involving Surrey and Kent. If either of those two sides fail to win the respective games that they're playing, and Lancashire do beat Durham here, and that'll be enough to make sure that they're back here for a home quarter-final on the 1st of October, on a Thursday night. So we've seen one over from spin of Tom Hartley as Jordan Clark looks around towards the lakeside boundary. So is Graham Clark. And it's going to be Luke Wood coming in from the Anderson end, and here's Martin Emmers.
Here he comes, and he's gone for 6. That was pretty splendid from Graham Clark. Just effortlessly guided that one over his own shoulder and down towards the long leg boundary and into the lower tier of the stand on our left-hand side for 6 runs. Did you write down the score at the end of the first over?
I did not, no.
Good, because I didn't either, so that's handy.
Excellent.
So we've done well there.
I can tell you it's 26 without loss after 2.1 overs.
Yeah. End of the first over, 12 on the board. And then it was 20 at the end of the second.
Well, that short leg side boundary might get a bit of peppering, I think, throughout the course of the game.
Yeah, especially with that tailwind.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, that wind going from right to left as we look. You can see the flags on the roof of the pavilion, so it's an easterly breeze. It's pushing the ball as well through that leg side.
Here comes Wood again. Oh, this is going to be out. He's mistimed it, Clark, and that's a cracking. Oh, has it been dropped or not? No, it's been taken. Cracking one-handed catch, backpedaling. And the catch has been taken by Dane Villas, who was at mid-on, and it just came too high off the bat, I think, from Graham Clark's point of view. So he departs, and he just had to... Well, he sort of slightly misjudged that, didn't he? Initially, he just stepped back gradually, casually, as if it was just going to come straight to him, and suddenly he's leaping in the air. But Clark departs for 12.
It was a great catch in the end, wasn't it? 'Cause I think he thought, well, I've got this pretty comfortably. If you look back on the replay here, I've got this. Oh, hang on. I might just have to go and stick out my hand and jump a little higher than I expected. And he stands up with a slightly cheeky smile on his face there, Dane Villas. I think that just got a little, I don't know, when it got pushed in that wind we mentioned, or just lifted slightly in the wind and pushed beyond him, but it looked like a pretty comfortable catch, and at the very last moment had to stick out his mitt and take a good one-handed catch.
Batsman crossed, so Alex Lees will be on strike. Ben Rain is at the other end. He's had a 71 in a win against Derbyshire, which included a record 8 sixes, a Durham equaling record. With John Hastings did the same thing against Northampton 2014, and then he got 50 last week as well against Derbyshire, as Wood comes in and Lees plays the ball down into the ground, right into the crease, and it just rolls off a couple of wickets on the offside. 1 run. Very nice sunny day, and it is the perfect drying day, without a shadow.
Have you got your smalls out, Martin?
Yes.
Excellent.
I've got them flying away on the top of Saddleworth Moor there, and I'll collect them on the way home.
Remember a game here, mate? I can't remember if it was last season, the season before, where it was a day similar to this, with the breeze and it was warm and it was sunny, and out the back.
Wood in, turned by Rain down towards fine leg on the discs, and it's cut off by Danny Lamb.
We're on the third level here, our commentary box on the top level, and at the back of this level there is an open little area.
Oh, the patio area.
Yeah, a little kind of patio area.
That would be a great place to hang.
Well, they did. They put a washing line from one end to the other and put a load of towels over it.
Great idea.
They dry within minutes.
The fact most of them were found in Macclesfield the next day. 28 for 1, 2.4 overs. BBC Radio Lancashire, BBC Radio Newcastle. Wood coming in here from the pavilion end. Left arm over to Lees. Thuds into his pad and runs off towards mid-wicket. A leg by is about to be signalled, and there it is. Our umpires tonight are Steve O'Shaughnessy and James Middlebrook. James is officiating behind the stumps at the moment. Former Yorkshire spinner, then he went to, where was he, Essex, and then Northants Played against Durham in the MCC pink ball game in Abu Dhabi in 2010, the first pink ball match under the lights there. Steve O'Shaughnessy is actually standing at point as Rain faces Wood. Leading edge off the pad and off towards backward point. End of the over. 3 gone, 29 for 1. John has emailed. He lives up in Bolton. And he says, how do, Sonner? I trust you're well. And welcome to the sunny northwest. I'm watching you on the Lanky YouTube channel. You have the perfect face for radio. Haven't heard that one before, John. John's on all day, everybody, at the end of the pier at Blackpool, which I gather isn't shut at the moment, Blackpool. Local lockdown in Sunderland now. And Durham and Northumberland, Tyne and Wear. I think we're going to have a lot more of them before long, aren't we? They've stretched across to West Lancashire today as well.
Liam Livingston will replace Saqib Mahmood from the Brian Statham end. So Livingston right arm around the wicket ball. That's cut through the offside, but Luke Wood, one of 4 fielders inside the circle on the offside, he's there to field, and there's no run. 1 over from Mahmood, went for 8. Hartley bowled 1 overs, went for 12. Livingston to Lees, just turns the ball up off his pads through mid-wicket, where Rob Jones comes up to field.
I watched the highlights of the game from last night. Yorkshire were extremely unlucky. 3 very good LBW.
I believe so,
in the first six overs of the power play. 2 of them were absolutely plumb.
I believe there was some that would... yeah, we didn't have the monitor in the commentary box last night, so we couldn't see them back. There's Livingston bowls, and Rain attempts to sweep.
Didn't read the spin there, did he?
Not, no. Gathered by the keeper, who's George Lavelle again, still with the gloves, keeping wicket. Made his T20 debut last night. Livingston back in again. And then cut. Doesn't get beyond that ring of red Lancashire shirts on the offside. And a dot ball. 30 for 1. 2 balls left for the 4th. Ben Rain on 1. Alex Lees at the non-striker's end and beaten on 15. Livingston back in. Down on 1 knee, going through the onside. Now then, who's underneath it? Rob Jones stretching for it, but beyond Rob's reach. And that's over the rope for 6 runs for Ben Rain. For a second, he may have been a wee bit concerned with Jones setting himself to take a catch, but too high for him. Rain moves on to 7. Durham at 36 for 1.
His long hair poking out from underneath his hat, his sunglasses on, and his...
Livingston tosses one up, and this time over mid-on by Ben Rain. Will it be 1 bounce, and 4 it is, into the lower tier of the stand below us. It's after a pretty tidy start. The batsmen have managed to fight back in the latter part of that Liam Livingston first over, having a slog swept one through mid-wicket and then sending one over mid-on for 4 runs. 40 for 1 after 4 overs.
Yeah, Rob Jones there, he's got this little moustache going on, a little bit of a goatee beard, sunglasses, long, what looks like sort of straggly hair. I'm not kidding you, he looks like one of the undercover cops in Narcos.
I don't know what that is.
Well, it's been a few series now. It's about the drugs wars in Mexico and Colombia in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and the Americans sending their undercover officers in, going after the likes of Pablo Escobar. And
so Rob Jones looks a bit like a Colombian drugs lord.
No, he looks like an undercover CIA agent. New over. Lee's down the track here and punches this delivery from Lamb out towards mid-off for 1.
I think you're quite like that, Rob Jones. That's not. I think I'd quite like to look like an undercover CIA agent.
Yeah, as long as the Colombian drug barons don't work out who you are, because you could reach a grisly end. He's probably better off playing cricket, in all honesty.
It's a safer occupation.
Yes, I think so. Jones in. Not Jones, it's Lamb. That's played away by Rain off towards deep mid-wicket. Danny Lamb, 19th T20. And he's taken 16 wickets, best figures 3 for 30 against Leicestershire on his debut. And he's bowler number 5 already from Lancashire. There we are. Keeping the bowling options circulating. Comes in right arm over from the pavilion end, and Lees again with a little single out through mid-wicket. A bit of rotational bowling. You expect a lot of turn on this pitch then, you assume, because it's been used already twice this week, hasn't it?
I would think so, yeah. It was used last night for the T20 game. It was used for the final one-day international between England and Australia.
I mean, bowls, Rain drives hard, way out into the deep on the leg side, and he's going to be out. He has found the fielder way out there. And it is Liam Livingstone. I thought for a second that was going to sail way past him, but he's trying to hit towards that long boundary, towards the old media centre, and he's trying to hit into the wind, and it just sat up nicely for Livingstone, and he takes the catch. Rayner's gone for 12, Durham 43 for 2.
It's a fair old hit out of that boundary. I mean, he's 10 out of 10 for bravery, taking it on, trying to hit it out the park through the leg side, but trying to clear the man positioned in the deep to the biggest boundary on the ground is a brave move, and one that didn't work for him.
Need I suggest that a bit like at Yorkshire the other night, not every ball has to be smashed out of sight and play percentage cricket? Durham kept doing this against Yorkshire, kept losing wickets, just small partnerships.
Trying to hit it out the park.
The other night, though, they got off to a start with a 46-run partnership, and they haven't had that luxury today. The partnership for the first wicket was 26. And 17 for the second. 4.4 overs to go. There's still plenty of cricket to be played here, and you must see out your overs, which is something they also didn't do the other night. They did fight back well with the ball, though, to contain Yorkshire and bowl them out for just 104 while defending 148. Lamb at 2, Lees just lets the ball pop off the bat and out towards the leg side for 1 run. It's picked up by Alex